You know, one of the Mitchelton Scott riders' pregnant girlfriend, so you have to think of the safety, not just of the riders here, but of the family members that you're going home to.
This is Fabro on the attack, and we'd already seen this in Tirreno Adriatico. He won a stage on one of these sort of undulating profiles towards the end. Matteo Fabro was in excellent form, wasn't he, there? Let's have a look. This is the moment he just ghosted past those riders who tried to get away. You can see that the Maglia Azzurra is doing some chasing. That's Ruben Guerreiro, who was the stage winner on Sunday in the wind and the rain. He has an 8-point lead over Giovanni Visconti in the King of the Mountains competition, but today he's trying to settle it down for his teammates up the road. And there's such a lack of control that there's an NTT rider coming across now. 25 seconds. This carries on, Brian. They could be caught and it could be start again after Chieti.
Yeah, a lot of riders want to get in this breakaway today, and it's going to be a strong breakaway for sure, because, you know, this isn't an easy start, and the attacking has been going on pretty much from kilometre zero. We do have a 4th category climb, although these climbs look as if they should be categorised, but 4th category climb which tops out at 129.9 to go, and it's just pretty much up and down. Great racing roads, and it continues all day. Pretty much in the middle of the stage it's flat, but yeah, a very difficult final, but even now riders absolutely everywhere.
Just 20 seconds now. Of course, Matteo Fabro not going home and winning that stage in Tirreno Adriatico. Thanks to Tim for reminding me that. Remember, he's out with Van der Poel, wasn't he? And Guerreiro himself showing good form there, but it's a similar profile. Like his basketball, as you can see, a big Kobe Bryant fan. Likes eating pizza. Well, training in the northeast of Italy normally, where he's from Udine. And we'll go up there, well, we should be going up there, fingers crossed, in a few days' time when we have a stage from San Daniele del Friuli.
Just looking here at this group, I think Rohan Dennis coming across as well. Bram Bila also in this group just behind Fabro. So a lot of riders trying to get involved. Ineos trying to get multiples in the breakaway.
And this is only the first part of the climb, actually. There's this very short, sharp descent before the final wall to Chieti. And that's where we'll have the King of the Mountains sprint.
James Knox also involved for De Koning Quickstep.
Remember, De Koning Quickstep, despite all the other news we've had off the bike, they still have the Maglia Rosa here. And they have João Almeida, only 22 years of age, already leading the Grand Tour for longer than any other Portuguese rider ever. 7th pink jersey on Sunday, as there's a lack of sort of working together here. And one long line chasing them down. But it's almost back together, this break. We haven't seen images from the front, have we, for a few moments, but we've been concentrating on all the chasing coming on. And it is almost back together. The last check, I think, was less than 20 seconds.
You can see why now that De Koning Quickstep were quite happy for the race to settle down when the original kind of 5 riders went back, because they knew that this could be happening down the road, and they don't want this. It's non-stop. James Knox up there towards the front. We've seen Honoré, and this is going to hurt a lot of riders. And fascinating to see this racing while still at the front, down to only 4 riders now.
Yep, Ravanelli, Clark, Brindley and Swift. The chasing continues from behind. We know that in the middle of these we have Vendrame, Restrepo, Czerny and Biel. Bora Hansgrohe, after initially wanting things to calm down, seem to be getting involved in the pulling now. It was interesting. Will they regret that decision to start pulling then, Bora Hansgrohe? Because obviously they wanted to keep the gap in check, but I think their initial idea when Benedetti started riding, was it to maybe just control the gap and make sure they didn't get too much? Or was it to start the party again like this, as we see those riders in the middle?
They missed the breakaway. What they wanted to try and do is get a rider in the breakaway. They knew that these climbs were coming up. So what Benedetti went straight to the front to try and pull it. And I really think it was potentially for Sagan, because Sagan was right up there in about 4th place, and when we turned onto the climb, I think it was for Sagan to try and get in the breakaway, but maybe he doesn't have the legs at the moment. And we saw Poyanski try, Fabro try. What Bora Hansgrohe are trying to do is get a rider in the break.
Well, I've been told that we're watching this, but it's time for some Giro stories. Well, Nathan Haas, always one to entertain on Twitter. It was a multi-outfit day on Sunday. And for Theo Gegenhardt, well, congratulating his teammates around the dinner table. 2 days, 2 second places in a row for Ineos Grenadiers. Let's not forget that they've also got a couple of stage wins as well. Staying on Twitter and with the Astana Pro team.
See you.
Finally, rest day. Well deserved after that first 9-day block, ending in the wind and rain. Start of the first week in terms of number of stage wins, Arnaud Demar with 3, the fastest man, and in the Ciclamino jersey. Might have been raining on the rest day, but I think CCC were pretty happy with things. And an early alarm clock on a rest day. And we know why now. Those COVID tests took place. This would have been pretty unpopular. Imagine your boss knocking at the door, one of those things. And here we go. Somebody must have been bored. Luca Shinto entertaining himself, not so much as riders. Ooh, the Welter's on its way, isn't it? This is what it looks like at the summit of the end of the first week. From Giro stories back to the actual story playing out on the road. And this is a group of riders at the front of the race now. It's a rather large one. I wonder if it's going to settle down because Peter Sagan is in it.
Yeah, it was Filippo Ganna came across. Looks like De Gent has made it as well. So some breakaway specialists here. Biel is there. I'm trying to see if Alicia Theo Gegenhardt has made it into this group as well.
Well, that would be interesting in terms of what's going to happen and who's going to chase. Lots of numbers from Ineos Grenadiers. Big numbers, in fact. Imagine that behind, they're not going to get too much rope. 8 seconds.
Very much doubt it, but I think the group is too big anyway. It's not working well, and I think if we come to the next climb, then we may see some action from some of the other riders, and we get a splinter group.
You'd think that would have to happen. Gegenhardt wouldn't be too popular among the rest of those up the road. Sagan, Ulissi looking for a stage win. Swift was there as well with Narvaez. Vendrame, what a finisher he is. Simon Clark on these hills. Biel, we know, super strong. Sagan up the road at the moment. And then what happens here? This is Sagan on the right-hand side. Well, doing his bit, coming through. Renly doing the same. Israel Startup Nation with a couple of riders in there, in fact. Looks as though Thomas de Gent has made it again.
The King of the Mountains, Guerrero, has also made it into this group, just sitting at the back. But I think it's just too big a group with Ineos there, with Theo Gegenhardt as well at 2 minutes and 41. I would think that this isn't the group that will contend the breakaway. But Ganna, Sagan, and possibly a few others, if they go, then there's big potential.
You imagine that Gegenhardt's presence would kill this breakaway until he's asked, very politely I'm sure, by his companions not to be there. Of course his teammates, even though Ganna has to make that correction, would quite like him to be there. But Sagan and company will quite like to be left with a bit of a time gap. They're going to have to work for it though, because it's a quick descent now and then it's a very short, punchy climb into Chieti. We've seen stage finishes here, remember, on Tirreno Adriatico, won by the likes of Evans and Scarponi. Just over 130 kilometres to go. It's been a lightning fast start to a dramatic stage 10 of the Giro. Dramatic before we even had a pedal stroke today, because Mitchelton Scott and Jumbo-Visma are both absent. Not on the start list. COVID positive tests. An absolute nightmare for the race. We've also lost Michael Matthews from the race, but his team somewhere have started. This is Peter Sagan at the front of stage 10 of the Giro, and he has Filippo Ganna with him, chasing and trying to get in the break today, the likes of Swift and Clark, Kent, Biel, and even Theo Geoghegan-Hart up there at 2 minutes and 41 seconds in the general classification. Coming in to one of the most beautiful towns in the whole of Abruzzo, the views from Chieti over towards Pescara on one side and the Adriatic, and to the Apennines on the other, are absolutely stunning. But if you ride your bike around here, you've got to be able to climb.
You certainly do. Some more riders just trying to come across this gap. This is the main peloton at the bottom of the screen. This is the original group at the top of it. We do have Ganna and Sagan who have just left this group. So an opportunity now for some riders to come across these two in front. You can see that Ganna is suffering here, but he knows once he gets over the top of this climb that it suits him. 82 kilograms, but at the end of the day, he's managing to stay with Peter Sagan.
And his teammate Swift is on the wheel here as there's a rider from Groupama FDJ trying to come across.
Yeah, this is Konovalovas, stage winner way back the last time trial, but it looks as if he's been given the okay to try and get something for himself. I think a little bit too difficult for Arnaud Demar today, so yeah, nice to see that Konovalovas trying to get in this breakaway.
Must be a great position to be in at the moment in Groupama FDJ, because they've sort of done the job already with 3 stage wins. They've got the Maglia Ciclamino, and I suppose it means that on the days where they don't have to ride for Demar, there is that freedom, and there's a case of, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly that, Rob. That he's already got 3 stage wins as Arnaud Demar, the French champion, and he just wants to give an opportunity to one of his teammates, and today is a possible opportunity. But we're getting further up this climb. Konovalovas hasn't made the junction. You think that he possibly will, but who else has got the legs to try and come across as we get nearer the top?
You mentioned the blue jersey, Brian, just a moment ago, the King of the Mountains, who won the stage the other day, Ruben Guerreiro. He gave a great interview to the Portuguese sports paper A Bola that I was reading yesterday on the rest day, and he said that now he's got his stage win, his main aim for the rest of the race is that King of the Mountains jersey. He hasn't sort of counted his chickens before they've hatched. He said it's not going to be easy because there's a lot of people fighting for it, but that now is his principal aim. He's in the group here, and he's got a teammate going up the road again, being followed once more by a rider from CCC. Cofidis seemed pretty active as well today. We've already seen Marco Mattes up the road. And this is Sagan with Ganna. And you can just see in the background that big tall figure of the former, as Brian mentioned, Giro d'Italia stage winner, the time trialist, Ignatius Konovalovas. It's a 4th category climb, this, to the centre of Chieti. Still a kilometre to go. And look at how steep it is. Sagan really fighting the gradients there.
Yeah, the legs are busting at this moment, just getting over almost to the top of this climb, just a few hundred metres to go, but this is really hurting everybody, and Konovalovas just comes round the corner as well. He's finding it difficult to get up to Sagan and Ganna, and just look at the damage in the peloton behind, Rob.
And actually, our colleague Dan Loy reminds me that Sagan's previous on this climb to the centre of Chieti. I talked about the battle at the Tirreno Adriatico a few years ago between Cadel Evans and the late Michele Scarponi back then. Sagan himself has climbed with the very best climbers in the world at the time, and he's beaten Chris Horner, I think it was, on the day to victory here. So he knows what he's doing up these roads.
Yeah, he hung on to the GC contenders that day and managed to out-sprint them to the line. But he can suffer, Sagan. He's coming good. This is a stage for him. Doing it the hard way now, from the front. He's decided that it's too difficult for his team to try and control things, so he put Benedetti towards the front for Sagan to try and get in the breakaway, but it's not done yet. Just the two of them. Konovalovas still not managed to get across, and I think by the looks of things behind, there's carnage in the peloton behind due to the severity of this steep climb.
Yeah, hairpin after hairpin, all the way up to the Centro Storico, the old town. It's a beautiful little old town with cobbled streets and little archways. The reward, once you do climb it, is lovely. This time, though, there's no stage win as a reward for Peter Sagan. There's a chance to go for a stage win later on, because it is the sort of profile that if the right group gets away, they could well stay away. And I think Sagan certainly thinks so today, Brian.
When he came across the top of the climb there, he took the maximum points, but he was so concerned looking behind to see who was coming across. I don't think he has to be concerned, because the man he's with is worth 10 men anyway, so just stay with Ghana and you'll do well. But he's concerned about who is coming across, because he knows still a long way to go. He needs kind of reinforcements. He needs a group to go with it, and doesn't want to be kind of stuck with Ghana just all alone.
What a group that is at the front anyway. What a pairing. Filippo Ganna and Peter Sagan. There are several groups on the climb here. There's a lot of space for things to come back together and settle down again, but that doesn't come until around 25 kilometres further down the road here, because you've got a few other lumps and bumps coming. Konovalovas was the man who took the single point. So nothing doing really in terms of the lead of Ruben Guerreiro in that classification. We've got two more fourth cats left and a third cat, but loads of unclassified climbs today. Now, the descent here is as harsh the other way as the climb was. You're climbing wherever you go in this town, whether walking, biking, driving. Perched right upon a hill in Abruzzo. And those of you thinking that Michael Matthews was one of the favourites for today's stage, well, he was one of the unlucky riders to have tested positive for COVID-19 overnight. And Michael Matthews not at the start today, unfortunately. Sagan driving it on.
You'd think it would be so difficult to come across to these two of the fastest descenders in the peloton. So as long as they continue to do this, it's going to be harder for any groups to come up to them. But I would think that when we come off this descent, Sagan and Ghana would want a few riders to come across, because it's still a long day ahead.
That was my next question, actually, Brian. Yeah, they certainly will want company, won't they? Just because no matter how good they are, they need a little bit more breathing time. They need a little bit more downtime. They need to keep the group away. They need one or two more engines in the group in front. 14 seconds. There's a 10 to 15 kilometre section coming up. Just over 10 Ks, actually, where it is flatter. They're not too far. They go around Pescara Airport, actually. Without going into Pescara itself, then head into the hills again as they go north, and heading towards Tortoreto. Once they get there, there's a loop around town on all sorts of little walls and very short, sharp, steep climbs, as the camera's always searching out the shark. And there he is, the white, red and navy blue. Not too far away from his shadow, who is Jakob Fuglsang. Or is that the other way around? Well, I believe certain days.
I believe that they've had a chat, not to follow each other. I don't know what that chat was about, but Nibali did mention it in the press conference yesterday that he's agreed with Fuglsang not to just mark each other out, because there are other contenders to be watched, and he doesn't want to be brought into a scenario which we had last year with Primož Roglič.
Both of them former teammates, let's not forget as well. Joao Almeida, and with all the talk of what's happening off the bike, maybe the pressure's been lifted off his shoulders as well a little. Not too many people talking about Joao Almeida. At the moment, it's extra what's happening on the road. And understandably so, given the gravity of the situation. This is Group 3 with Ulissi and Nibali there. Fuglsang alongside Nibali, number 21. Many of the stars of the show are still present, despite those who've lost. An explosive start to the second week of the Giro d'Italia, and if you'd like to watch it uninterrupted on the Eurosport app or on the GCN Race Pass, then switch on your digital devices. We'll be there with every single pedal stroke from when we go live. We've had so many different riders trying to get into the break, and forget about all the horrid stuff happening off the bike. The positive tests in the coronavirus, and of course the two teams who've not had starting today in Jumbo-Visma, who decided not to start after Steven Kruijswijk returned a positive corona test, and Mitchelton Scott, who agreed with the organisers after several positive tests amongst the staff that they would not start today. Remember, Michael Matthews, also a non-starter. But those on the road has given quite a show so far. The break is yet to settle down, and at the front of the race, being chased by this Group 2, is Peter Sagan and Pipo Ganna. Ganna's teammate Swift seems very, very keen today, Brian. We know he's got the form. We know today would suit him. And also, no surprise really to see Dario Cataldo wanted to chase as well.
Yeah, two Movistar riders there. Ciccone, the rider for Trek Segafredo. Looks like Simon Clark for EF Pro Cycling just on the back. A couple of riders for Cofidis. So maybe the thoughts on, Viviani and co not getting the results that they really wanted. They're kind of chasing a potential stage win, so nice to see them having two riders in this breakaway, but it's still active at the front of the peloton, no real control. Ciccone Quick-Step at 6s and 7s at the moment, and really kind of as expected, and everybody just kind of throwing everything at this stage, trying to get in the breakaway.
Again, going again there from the bunch. It's being followed by a rider from Israel Startup Nation. Bardiani also trying to filter somebody forward. Cofidis have at least two riders in this group, possibly three. There's another red and white kit, Androni. I think that's an Androni Giocattoli jersey, isn't it? This is Ciccone on the right side, Swift on the left. Cataldo, we mentioned him because he's a local rider. He's an Abruzzese, as is Ciccone. So the two local riders are chasing. Abruzzese, meaning somebody from the Abruzzo region.
Riders everywhere. Look at this, they're going right, then going left.
That's Spaghetti Junction for cyclists. It is one of the busier areas of Abruzzo, this, between Pescara and Chieti. I said you've got the airport in the middle, but... Well, Ganna's just asking for the time gap there. The camera operator saying there is a group behind, but we can't tell you how far they are. We don't know. We can tell you, Filippo, that they're at 11 seconds, I'm afraid. I say I'm afraid. I think he wants company, but it's a rather good group coming across. Do they want a group that big? I know they could be being a bit picky here, Brian, asking for, well, we don't want them, we don't want that. It's a more dangerous group maybe than they'd like, isn't it, this?
No, this is a good group. It puts Ineos in a good way with Ben Swift here. So it's a very good group. So now that they've made the junction, can anybody else?
Well, we saw that they were trying. Just 41 seconds. They are still trying. Quite a few teams represented. We're hearing that Restrepo is chasing yet again. A one man not here, we mentioned, was Michael Matthews. Let's see if we can hear anything, the latest, in fact, about his coronavirus diagnosis. Well, it's a tweet, actually, Michael Matthews saying that he's just got the news that he's returned a positive test for COVID-19. Obviously disappointed, but he's hoping to make a full recovery and get back to racing soon. Asymptomatic, by the way, Michael Matthews. So until he had the test, he wasn't to know. Nobody around him was to know. In fact, he was riding wonderfully well on Sunday. So even though he was carrying the virus, it certainly wasn't affecting his performance. But we hope he gets well soon. And I suppose another sad thing is that he may well have ridden his last race for Team Sunweb then, because he's leaving the team at the end of the year.
It's one of these things that we don't know, whether there's any long-term effect of catching this virus. And, that's why safety has to come first. And I wouldn't be surprised if more teams decided that, to pull out this Giro d'Italia. I think, and we said it before, that the organisers wanted to go the whole way, and we heard from Venue and said that, they've only had a small amount of positives, but, what are the false negatives? So it's troubling times. I know that Shelter Prize is planned for tomorrow. You had Tour of Flanders, Ron van Vlaanderen this weekend. I think everybody wants to get there, but it is going to be difficult to pull out an event or kind of stop an event. It can easily be done, but you have to wonder about the Vuelta, if that is actually going to start.
Well, I'll update you on the situation here in Spain in just a moment's time when this settles down. This is Vini Zabou and Giovanni Visconti wanting to get up the road. There's been a little bit of chat in the press because he's second in the King of the Mountains competition about going for that, but he says, of course, I'd love to go for it, but I'd rather win a stage. Winning a stage is the immediate priority for Vini Zabou and Giovanni Visconti. If he gets that, then he'll think about the Mountains jersey.
And just looking behind it, Ulisi, not for the first time today, trying to get in the breakaway. So he's got Simon Pilot with him, but there's a lot of riders that have missed out already trying to get in this breakaway, and they're not going to stop.
At the front at the moment, we have Restrepo, Sagan, De La Parte, Walter, Clark, Konovalovas, Cataldo, Villela, Ganna, Swift and Ciccone. You could see there that Pilot was following Visconti, and one by one they come across. One by one, it's going to be too big, Brian, and it's all going to be chased down again.
Yep, still very active at the front of the peloton. A lot of that information. You could hear that Ganna was asking, what about the group? It's the same in the team car. Once they get the numbers, they say, guys, we need someone in this breakaway because this is going to go pretty much all the way to the finish. When you get to the likes of Ganna and Swift, Sagan, those sort of names, that there's a big possibility it will go to the end. And that's why we're seeing continuous attacking at the front.
And that's why Thomas de Gent is extremely interested today as well. Third attempt from him to get up the road. Drame has given it a couple of opportunities with AG de Zella Mondial. There's a rider in here representing AG de Zella, yet to get a good look at him. But there are 120 kilometres still remaining of what is a very complicated stage, especially in the final 50 to 60 Ks. This is the chasing group. We have 9 riders up the road at the moment. But look at the reaction it's really provoked behind in the group. Well, they're working well, but they've still got to chase a good 30 seconds. 35 back to the peloton. This is Thomas de Gent. Well, they're playing ball at the minute, but you can see in the background that it's a little dark over Bill's Mothers. Thankfully nice and bright as we look at it. It was a filthy rest day yesterday, rather like Sunday. I think it did fine up a little bit in the afternoon, but any rest day coffee rides I think will have been done with rain capes on. But we were hearing anyway, there wasn't much of a lie-in for some teams. There was alarm clocks going off for COVID-19 tests and everything. Tension will have been felt around the race, I think, as the rumours started to swirl. Even we spent the entire morning hearing this, hearing that, Brian, this might happen, that might not happen, such and such has said that they're going to start, they're not going to start. There's been tension palpable throughout the race caravan, whether you're following on the ground there or even at a distance like we are.
I think we're very lucky to get through the Tour de France, but here, when you hear what Joos van Emden has said about, sharing buffet with, just normal kind of holiday makers, and first and foremost, it must have been really difficult to organise the hotels. You cannot just say to the people that have already booked, you can't come anymore. Everybody's looking at the economy throughout the world and, trying to look after themselves and, taking risks, which I don't think we should do as a sport. I'd be very surprised now if we got all the way to Milan, but that's what the race organisers really want. They're saying earlier on that at the start that there's only been a few cases, but you have to look at the case of Simon Yates and Mitchelton Scott. they've done the right thing now, and I really do think that Jumbo-Visma have as well. But we're talking about Simon Yates was the first rider to test positive. Now we've had two other high-profile riders in Michael Matthews and Stephen Kreuzwig. Stephen Kreuzwig just said he felt okay, but his test was positive. You have to look at Sunweb as well. It might go the same way as what Mitchelton Scott did, because where do they contract it? So it's very difficult, and there'll be a lot of big decisions made soon.
This is interesting. Arnaud Démare and his team are chasing this down. Is this because of the intermediate sprint and the fact that Sagan's up the road?
Yep, simple as that. They don't want Sagan to get this intermediate sprint, and it was very difficult. And from here, it's still a little bit lumpy, but it's 66.9 to go. There is that intermediate sprint, and it's fairly flat until then as well. And the fact that they have got Conor Valovis in that breakaway, I would think that he would be now that anchor in the group in front. He'd be sitting at the back.
Joao Almeida in the pink jersey, Arnaud Démare in the Maglia Ciclamino, and his team are chasing. Intermediate sprint is a long, long way off yet, but they want to keep this under wraps. Maybe even send a message to Peter Sagan that they don't want him up the road.
And also the fact of the situation we're in at the moment. You don't want to take any risk whatsoever, because if Sagan gets the intermediate sprint and he gets the stage win as well, he gains a lot of points. So the fact that Sagan's here, you never know what's round the corner. You don't know if this race is going to be stopped. So maybe in another stage that they may not have chased, but Groupama certainly do not like the fact that Sagan is in this group.
Yeah, we're playing a game of musical chairs, and you're going to be in the jersey when the music stops here. If the music stops, according to Mauro Vegni. He says only the government will stop the Giro d'Italia. Of course, for our personal pleasure point of view, we want it to go all the way. We also have to be realistic. But again, I know that there's a lot of swing and a lot of strong emotions around at the moment, and a lot of people will be saying, oh no, it's disgraceful, it should be stopped. Unless you're in the position, unless you are there to make the decision, it's very difficult to make that call, isn't it? We will watch events and just see what happens, I think, is the best course of action.
Yeah, they've sent Conor Valovis back here, because Conor Valovis is now looks like he's been sent back to the front of the peloton. He's the fourth rider in this peloton now. Miles Scott's in at the front. They're trying to close this one down very, very quickly now. Only 27 seconds, so they are bringing it back. It's a bold move. Conor Valovis tried to get in the breakaway, and we're talking about how it would be good to actually give another rider an opportunity. So Conor Valovis now sitting third wheel, and Groupama trying to close this one down.
Real demonstration of that teamwork there. Not an easy conversation to have, I guess, with a rider who doesn't get many opportunities himself nowadays, but the perfect teammate. He's got on with his job. We've not seen any remonstrating Max Soler style, have we?
No, we haven't, and that's what it's all about. You get paid to do a job, and we know that Conor Valovis, we've heard from him already. You'll take the plaudits for doing things well, but if you can remember, it was only a few years ago that he was part of the group that was eliminated from the Tour de France when Arnaud Démare was outside the time limit. He was one of the group, so he went back to help the team sprinter and got eliminated from the Tour. You stick by, through thick and thin, you always stick by his side, and that's what you need in a teammate, a faithful teammate, and that's what Conor Valovis is, and that's why he doesn't win much, because he stays by the side of his leader.
It's not looking great for the breakaway again. They looked as though they'd managed to get away. Peter Sagan did so much work there alongside the people Ganna. They were joined by this group that includes the likes of Restrepo, Clark, Cataldo on home roads, let's not forget, as an Abruzzese rider. Ciccone, another home rider, alongside Ben Swift. maybe with a really good opportunity to take a stage for the Ineos Grenadiers. Only 9 seconds behind, you've got a group of 5, but look at that, at 21 seconds, the peloton. And that is because Peter Sagan is up the road. We have an intermediate sprint in around 50 kilometers time. And Arnaud Démare and Groupama FDJ are taking no chances. They do not want to let Sagan back into the hunt for the points jersey. And to that effect, I think we should go and hear from Arnaud Démare, who was talking to our microphones before the stage today.
Arnaud Démare, aujourd'hui c'est pas possible du tout on arrive au sprint.
Arnaud, it's impossible to have a sprint today, isn't it?
Peut-être, mais pas
sprint maybe, but not with all of the peloton.
Pour garder le maillot,
To keep the Maglia Ciclamino, you take a look at today's breakaway. If there's someone dangerous to you, will you try and go in a breakaway too? Do you want to control the race?
Que j'aille dans l'échappée.
Me in the breakaway. Well, if there's someone dangerous in the breakaway, is your team going to work?
Oui, on va être vigilant.
Yeah, we're going to take care at the beginning. Today's stage is really made for the breakaway.
Sur le début.
There's a big flat part right after the climb, almost 40 kilometers, and we want to go back on the breakaway, then we can do. If we want to go back to Sagan, that's when we're going to work, actually.
The
finale of the stage is tough. Who could win today?
Très dur. Tu penses que c'est une étape parfaite pour qui?
Je pense qu'il va y avoir 2 courses en une. Il va y avoir
I think there are going to be 2 races in one. First of all, there'll be the breakaway at the front. Then there'll be another race for the general classification.
À jouer, parce que c'est vraiment un parcours difficile. Fulzang,
I think it'll be a fight because the final's quite
il a gagné
tough.
ce genre d'étape sur Tirreno Adriatico.
It's typically a race that Jakob Fuglsang would win. He won a stage during the Tirreno that was similar, and Nibali already tried to attack. So I think there'll be a bit of a fight actually at the end. Well, they should have expected it, because that's exactly what Arnaud Démare said before the stage, that on that part, before the intermediate sprint, if Sagan was away, they would chase him down, and that is exactly what they're doing here, Brian.
Yep, and it looks as if the plan is not quite there yet. It's gone out another 8 seconds to 28 seconds, and you know, if you're in that breakaway like Anna Swift and you see Sagan there, and you know, what do? You have to keep on thinking that and pushing and hoping that Groupama don't bring this back together, but they're not going to stop. We know they're not going to stop, and it's going to be very difficult. And we might see, although it's kind of flatter terrain, we might see some attacks from the group. I was thinking for a moment that, you know, Sagan is the problem here for this breakaway. Otherwise, there is a strong breakaway, and even for Cofidis and Movistar having 2 riders in each, they would love this breakaway to go up. But I don't think anybody would ask Sagan to drop back. It does look as if Ciccone at the back is sitting on, so he's not doing any work.
Maybe they've seen the situation here and they're wary of wasting his legs with maybe Nibali needing help at the end. One other factor to add into the equation, just take a look at the camera lens. A few sectors where it's blurry. It's starting to rain. The man you're watching is number 17, who's Jonathan Restrepo. 13, just ahead of him. 113, I should say, for Cofidis. That's Nicolas Aidé. And the gap growing again. Working well together here, despite the fact that there's a few riders just sitting in and maybe missing a turn here or there. 20 seconds. These guys have got as close as 8 seconds. Henninen is the rider from Agio Dozella Mondiale this time, the Finnish rider. They're really excited about his progress, by the way. So much so, Brian, they've just given him a new 3.5-year contract.
Wow, that's huge. That is huge. You're starting to see glimpses this year, but I think this year would have been a bigger year for him if he'd got to ride the full season. So, you know, it's good that they're investing in that young man. I first came across him in the Under-23 World Championships a couple of years ago, where Hershey won and he was third, so he looked good then. Maybe struggled a little bit in his first year of settling in, but I've seen some performances this year and it's real no surprise.
talking of the breakaway, Henninen has been caught. So, one group to chase, and given the fact that this wasn't their objective to catch these 5, again, it's a consequence of their actions, but the objective was to go after Sagan. 34 seconds. You imagine they'll keep riding here over this little lip, and it's after this little bit of terrain here that goes on for the next 5-10 kilometres or so, starts to go downhill again, and then it's completely flat for about 45 k's, and a lot will depend on what's left in the tank for these guys and how much organisation there is in the front, Ryan.
There is organisation in front, because 39 seconds it has gone up. It came down to 20 seconds, so it's just kind of hovering there, and I think that's the case. If you can see some effort being made at the front by Groupama, and this is where you have to have some sort of control. If you burn a couple of riders on these drags, then they'll pay for it once you get on the flat. I do believe that it will come back together, but you've made the breakaway. You've got 2 riders in your team in the breakaway, because we've got Movistar, Cofidis and Ineos have got 2 riders each, so they'll be really happy with this situation. But knowing that Groupama riding, because this man is here, Peter Sagan, do you give 100%? Do you think this is not going to be the day? Do you continue on? So it does look as if they are continuing, and if they all contribute, then the 5 riders in front of them are. How long can they keep this going for? But yeah, it's still hanging in the balance, but it needs everybody to commit to this.
Into Spoltore. Just left Chieti province. Very brief passage in Pescara. Only around 20 kilometres through the province of Pescara. And then we reach Teramo. And Teramo province is where we're going to finish our stage today. Finish down at the Lido in Tortoreto, the coast. And Tortoreto town itself is inland, and that's where we'll do the bulk of the climbing. 2 ascents from 2 different sides, one of which goes up with a 24% gradient. Will we have these 2 races, as Arnaud Demar forecast?
The thing is, Rob, once we get over the top of this climb, you might find that if the gap goes up a little bit more, you might find that another team come to the front as well to help. They'll know that Groupama are happy to take the reins at the moment at the front of the peloton, but from the start you could see that UAE were really interested in trying to do something. So there's a possibility that you might see someone like Biel come up to the front and help out the chase, because they've got one of the main contenders in this stage today, and that's Diego Alisi.
Until this morning, you might have expected Team Sunweb to work as well, but of course Michael Matthews isn't here. This is Nicolas Aidé, and a teammate on his wheel is another Frenchman, Stéphane Rossetto. This is Rossetto now himself.
It's a big number there, 24% in the reds since the start. So he's tried really hard, and I think that's why he's not giving up. He's going to continue on as much as possible.
That's what I've liked about watching Sagan in the last couple of months, actually. I know he hasn't won a race, and I know that we've been banging on about the fact that he hasn't won since the 10th of July 2019, but from an editorial journalistic point of view, it's an important stat, a very important stat for somebody who couldn't stop winning prior to that moment. But I've really, from a personal point of view, enjoyed watching his combative nature, his aggressive nature, and the fact that he has not been giving up. And, he's not been backing off, he's not been shying away. He's always been there trying to contest, even if he might feel that his powers are maybe on the wane a little bit.
Yeah, it's been great entertainment, Sagan, and no surprise that he's in the breakaway today trying to do what he does best. And 24% in the red, so it just goes to show how difficult a stage, the start of the stage was. But still not over yet. Still Groupama trying to bring them back, still hovering around the kind of 40-second mark, and you could see that there was a bit of tiredness shown in the faces of Groupama. So potentially the breakaway seems to be winning for the time being, not unless another team want to come up and nip this in the bud as well.
Well, let's see what happens in the next 10 kilometres or so as things start to level out. course, we will have an opportunity to talk a little more in depth about the situation in the race. Joao Almeida, reaction from Ruben Guerreiro's win the other day, where everybody is, and of course, the several bits of shocking news that we all had this morning. And the coronavirus's presence at the Giro d'Italia. This at the moment is Giulio Ciccone, giving way to Dario Cataldo and Davide Villela, the two riders from Movistar. And Arnaud Démare, well, he's even putting in terms himself. All hands to the pump, and look at this. Left-hand side, Benedetti coming up to have a real word with the motorbike pilot.
Well, this gives a big indication now that Groupama are on a back foot now. It's creeping up to 50 seconds, and you know, they were starting to really struggle, and that's why we got the Bora Hansgrohe rider. I think it is Fabro, in fact. It came up towards the front and just demonstrated that the bike was too far. But this is the man with the form. This is the man with the power. Why not? Why not do a little bit at the front? We've never seen this. Way back in my day, this would never happen. But nowadays, the yellow jersey, or the jerseys don't mind doing a little bit on the front.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because he's not expecting to sprint at the end today, so why not use your energy now to achieve the team goal?
Yeah, exactly. And hats off to Groupama. They're putting up a big fight, and you can see just behind, it's all in one line, so they are travelling at some pace, and if he can do a turn every so often, help his teammates out. But by the looks of things, they are tired. Very difficult start, and now they're having to chase, and the gap was going up, and it's come back down a few seconds courtesy of that man in the Ciclomino jersey.
What sort of effect, as we see the Giro d'Italia being welcomed to Capelle sul Tavo, what sort of effect will the start today have on everybody's legs? It's a difficult thing to come through after a rest day, a start like this. Now easing yourself into the second week. We're off for a very quick break. And for those of you on our digital platforms, thanks for staying with us. This is the terrain we're taking on right now. You can see it flattens out back towards the Adriatic. And we are almost at that point where we get to the flat, and we'll see one way or the other which way the stage is going to go. This is what's happening in the points classification, and this is why Arnaud Démare is chasing. It is a 57-point lead for the French national champion at the moment. But if Sagan takes points, 12 of them at the intermediate, and then goes on and does very well in the stage, he's right back in the mix, and they're really fighting for this jersey now.
And you can see the time gap coming down to 41 seconds. That's almost 10, maybe a little bit more, that Démare is chopped off. So, but this is a battle between this man here and Démare. And Démare already said this morning, if Sagan gets in the breakaway, they'll chase it down, and that's what they're trying to do. But this was always going to be a strong breakaway, and it is there's some strong riders in here. Can they go all the way to the finish at 43 seconds? Well, it's still in the balance, because Démare is having to work with his Groupama teammates. It just needs another team to put one or two riders up there. I've already mentioned UAE trying to get in the breakaway, but they've not managed to do that. Putting someone like Biel up towards the front to help out may make the difference.
Biel has been one of the stars of this Giro d'Italia, as has Peter Sagan, but he is yet to win, and of course he hasn't won since the 10th of July 2019. The real tug of war, this. Are these guys going to bring it back, or is the rope going to snap?
Yeah, that's the big question, and we're loving that. You just look at the last rider from Groupama having to do his turn, and really struggling at the back. But I feel for the riders that are at the back of the peloton, because they want this to stop as well. As much as the Groupama riders want to bring this back, there's a lot of riders at the back of the peloton hoping that it stops soon.
It's like a team time trial here. We've got one team here of 10 riders at the front, set off maybe a minute before, and they've lost 20 seconds now. And there's a slightly smaller team, 6 or 7 riders that are chasing them on. And they're getting closer, 37 seconds. But have they gone out too quickly? And are they going to blow? That's the question here.
It is. And, they can see the carrot in front of them now. And it's slowly but surely coming back. And I think Demara's made the difference here. For me, he definitely had made it. Now that he's prepared to ride and bring this back, because his team are really struggling now, and this helps them. You can see them trying to communicate with each other. So this is a team time trial, as you say, Rob, from Groupama, really against the riders in front. And we've got 10 riders in the breakaway. So coming down here again, 33 seconds. Can they do it, or will they blow up?
Welcome back to what is a fascinating tug of war in the breakaway. This is the group of 10 riders they're trying to chase. Groupama FDJ want to get rid of Peter Sagan. They're not too bothered by Ben Swift in there. Of course, Ben Swift would be a real opportunity to take the stage win, but I think Groupama have accepted they aren't going to go for the stage win today with Arnaud Démare, but they do not want Peter Sagan, to get points in the intermediate sprint, which is coming up in around 35 to 40 kilometres time. Or do they want him to win the stage, and they're trying to chase him down? This group had almost a minute, but Arnaud Démare is committed, and it's team time trial versus team time trial. Right now, you have to say that Groupama FDJ is starting to win the battle now, Brian.
Yeah, they're starting just when it was going out to about 53 seconds, but all the time this is happening, there's no team card behind the break in front, and they won't be getting any service, any bottles or anything at all. So that the longer this remains, they'll start to get a little bit desperate, because this is definitely Thursday work. 27 seconds now, and still in one line. Even if you wanted to move up to help, I don't think you'd be able to anyway at this speed.
It's been an explosive start, hasn't it? Ridden at a lightning fast pace so far, this stage 10 of the Giro d'Italia, in a Giro where we've already had the fastest stage ever of the Giro d'Italia, won by Arnaud Démare the other day. That was in Brindisi.
The thing is, Rob, if it does come back together and there's a lull in the action, and then you just kind of fall off the front, it could be another 5 or 6 riders that to get in this breakaway. I mean, you've tried hard. We've already seen from the stats, 24% Sagan has been in the red today already. So it's been a hard start to today's stage 10. And all of a sudden, after the feed station, it comes back together, and a breakaway just rolls off the front. That's bike racing for you.
Well, we'll get the views of our experts this evening on the breakaway as to what was happening at the start here and whatever happens at the end. Joining Brian Smith, Dan Lloyd and Olo Shanawi in tonight's studio will be Connor Dunn again. It'll be great to have him back. Remember to catch the breakaway on the GCN Race Pass or on the Eurosport Player.
Did you notice there that...
Sorry, it's uninterrupted, Brian, sorry. On that Eurosport app or on the GCN Race Pass all day long.
Did you notice there that I think only one rider took their feedback there? The race is on, and none of the Groupama riders took their feedback. It's coming down 16 seconds, because normally what happens if you take your feedback in the break, everything kind of slows down a little bit. The race is still definitely on, and I was talking about no team cars behind, nobody reaching out and grabbing their feedback. I think only one was Simon Clark there, and none of the riders from the front of the peloton did that as well. So it's full on. Those bags will go into the team car behind, and hopefully if the race settles, they'll get manage to get their feed.
Well, that was the official feed zone. It'd be interesting to see how many people in the peloton are able to stop and pick something up as well here, because they're not letting up in the chase of Groupama FDJ. We've got problems for one rider there on the right-hand side from Astana, but it's down to 20 seconds now, and Groupama FDJ will not want to stop this job, especially getting so close. They've got a really good team of time trialists chasing as well, let's not forget. We said that it was a bit of a team time trial here. Giro d'Italia time trial winner Conor Volovas, who's already been pulling in the break. We've seen Miles Scottson, who's an excellent rider from the track, of course, a former national champion of Australia. He's been chasing along as well. The likes of Sinkeldam, the power they have. Guarnieri, who, of course, is the lead-out man. And we have seen himself, Arnaud Démare himself, riding at the front too, but it's an interesting battle. Now, the cars are being taken out the gap. And by the cars, Brian already mentioned that there were no team cars there, but the neutral cars also being taken out the gap as well. Tells you that it's not a great gap at the minute. And there's the reflection. Another couple of seconds chipped off as I complete the sentence there. 18 seconds with Jan Tratnik needing a new back wheel.
Yeah, I think it's one rider with the bag in the back from Lotto Soudal, but he's not had a chance to dig into it yet. It's full-on racing. It's happened in my career on just several occasions where if the race is on, the feed's there, you just forget about it, continue on the racing, and hopefully once it settles down, all the feedbacks will go into the car behind.
Hearing some disappointing news for Groupama FDG in that they've lost a man. They've lost a man. Ramon Sinkeldam has just abandoned the Giro d'Italia, I'm afraid. So they are now down to 6 riders following Benjamin Thomas abandoning early in the race with illness. So Ramon Sinkeldam has now abandoned the race. Of course, with all that's been going on in the last 24 to 48 hours, of course, you don't want to speculate, but it does send alarm bells ringing, doesn't it, when riders abandon the race. We'll see if we can find out what's happened to Ramon Sinkeldam, but he's no longer in the race. Sagan, all credit to him. What a fighter. He's still going here, and he's still believing right to the end that he can stay away, that he can take the points, and that he can win the stage.
Yeah, it's fascinating at the moment. Seeing this battle for... We saw the battle for green in the Tour, now the battle for the Ciclamino jersey, and you know, if Sagan wasn't kind of chipping away at points and getting points, you're thinking about the stage win, this would have been a perfect day for him. It's the fact that he's in another competition, and Demar wants to keep a hold of that jersey, and you can even see in the breakaway now it's starting to split up.
So bad news for Sagan, isn't it? Bad news for Sagan if that's splitting up, because just when it looked as though they were gaining time again, up to 28 seconds, there's a little bit of a split in this break, and if they don't all have the power to follow, in fact, it's Sagan who's let the wheel go. Oh dear. If they can't all follow, Brian, then this is a disaster for Sagan after all of that work as we pass the 1,500 kilometre mark.
Yeah, you can see Ciccone just on the radio now. I think it was just a case of, legs have just gone. It's so difficult when you're riding with the likes of Sagan, and they're putting down big power, and you're just kind of hanging on, and you're encouraged to do your turn at the front. Gone out a little bit to 27, 28 seconds now. So, now that's Trek Segafredo, and Coffer is missing. Just looking here.
Oh, wow. Was that correction from Gann now that lost the wheel, actually? Oh, they're back together now. I suppose that is better news than if it had been a legs issue, Brian.
Yeah, but I think it's a legs issue already from, is that Ede and Ciccone? They couldn't stay with it, so... Fast and furious, both in the breakaway and at the front of the peloton now, but down to, 7 riders, 25 seconds, still in the balance, and... I think everybody's loving this battle that we've got between Demar and Sagan, and Sagan putting a big fight, but at what cost?
And we know that Sinkeldam has climbed off. There's only 5 riders at the front there for Groupama FDG at the minute. What's left in the tank for them? That's another question we need to pose. 25 seconds as the gap goes up and down. This could be another lightning fast stage today. Konovalovas and Scottson are still there. Konovalovas was the man riding at the front. And this is the group they're chasing. Lose another rider. Rossetto has gone out the back now. So they're down to 6 or 7 now.
Yeah, down to 7 riders. You've got Restrepo, Sagan, Clark, Cataldo, Virella, Ganna and Swift, but
113 professional victories for Peter Sagan, and he still wants more. Hasn't added to that tally for 15 months now. This is the man trying to stop him, the man of the moment in the sprints. It's such a worrying moment, didn't we? But we've got a wonderful distraction on the road now. This is confirmation that Rossetto didn't manage to pick up his lunch on the way back to the bunch.
think it's the first opportunity he's had to have something to eat. He's had the breath to be able to do that. So it's difficult times for everybody. Nobody getting any bottles or any feed at all so far over the last, I think, hours racing.
And I'm just wondering how that will affect the pink jersey and everybody else around as well. This could have a real effect on the race for the next few days. 28 seconds the gap, 92 k's to go. Two trains going different ways. Fascinating. Miles Scottson here, former BMC man. So strange up and down career so far. Really exploded onto the scene, winning the national championship. I remember watching him on the track for the first time as well in London and being absolutely amazed by his power. I didn't see too much of him for a year or two after that. But he seems to have really settled down into Groupama FDJ, and they'll be appreciating his work here to try and keep Peter Sagan and company in check. Ganna's still there, Swift's still there.
Look at all the positions now, especially the riders towards the front there. They were all on the point of the saddle. Everybody was on the point of the saddle trying to give it absolutely everything.
And again, there's a little bit of question mark about the cohesion there. Ganna was forced to close the gap to Sagan. Sagan understandably is riding for his life here. Because not just in terms of the points, this could be a big sort of blow of morale struck to Groupama FDJ. Imagine they use all of their forces, all of their energy trying to chase this today, Brian. Just imagine that they're not successful and that Sagan goes away, takes 12 points and then does, you know, a first, second, third on the stage. That's a huge swing back. Yes, they'd still but just about be in charge of the jersey, but oof, it'd be close again, and morally they would be struggling, wouldn't they?
And tomorrow's a sprint stage as well. There's only one fourth category climb in the Rimini stage, and then we get a rather difficult stage the day after. So these are two big stages for Arnaud Démare and co, and the gap creeping up a little bit to 36 seconds. It did come down just under 20 seconds, but yeah, this tug of war is going to continue until something goes bang, and it's either Groupama or this man here. And I don't think this man on the left-hand side, Peter Sagan, will give up.
You know, I was wondering a few kilometres back if he would just knock it off again and maybe give it a dig later on. But he's expended a heck of a lot of energy. And look at the gap. 57 points is the gap between Sagan and Démare. What is it? 40 points for a stage win? 12 for the intermediate sprint. So that would be 52. Of course, Michael Matthews' third there is no longer in the race. The gap has been as high as almost a minute. It's been as low as 16 seconds. But it's now crept up to 38 again. What a fascinating tug of war between essentially two team time trial teams. We have 7 riders at the front here. Restrepo, Clark, Cataldo, Villela, Ganna, Swift, and most crucially, Sagan. And behind, you've got the remaining numbers of Groupama FDJ. At the moment, 5 riders are riding, including Arnaud Démare. And the reason they're riding is to try and prevent Peter Sagan from picking up intermediate sprints in around 25 kilometres time. Oh, now then. They've given up. They've given up the ghost. The chase has been called off. And this could be the first victory for Peter Sagan. And this was it. It looked as though it was coming back together. We know that Ramon Sinkeldam climbed off a few moments ago, and they are out of gas, out of energy. Peter Sagan won, Arnaud Démare 0.
Yeah, it's still not guaranteed a stage win for Peter Sagan, but I tell you what, that was a big battle there, and we said that something had to go pop, and it was Groupama. and now that the gap will go up. But I tell you what, this is a big opportunity for Ben Swift, and you know, we have got a breakaway of 7 riders, and even the likes of Villela and Cataldo, 2 riders for Movistar, 2 riders there and for Team Ineos and Ganna and Swift. So Sagan is on his own and will not have it easy, but 7 riders, he'll take a bunch of, he should take maximum points at the intermediate, and he should take some points towards the end. But this has been in a brutal stage, and still, you know, under 90 kilometres yet to go.
It looks as though we've had a crash as well somewhere, because already on the ground on his left-hand side has been Fernando Gaviria. Off camera at some point.
Will this be a good respite now? He's gone back to the doctor's car to get patched up. There'll be a lot of riders. You can see them going into the pockets now, starting to eat. They've not had a chance to do anything over the last kind of hour or so. So a lot of riders in here will be thankful that you know, this race is off. This tug of war has been won by Sagan and Co. Just look as if they'll continue, not unless another team or teams decide to come to the front.
Well, you can't imagine that it will be the Koenig Quick-Step, because the most dangerous rider to Joao Almeida's pink jersey is Davide Villela, the man in the blue there for Movistar, and he sits at 23 minutes 14 seconds, so he's by no means an immediate danger to the pink jersey in the general classification. There's Ben Swift. He's the next best placed man at 26.46, but he's thinking of nothing more than a Grand Tour stage win for the first time in his career, and this is what's happening behind. Some food, comfort break, chance to catch your breath. It's been full on for nigh on 100 kilometres. Been ridden at 1,000,000 miles an hour as well, it seems. In the break, they've got to keep going, but they can do so now in the knowledge that they're not being chased with any fervour or any sort of frantic nature.
The interest now is what happens after they've had a bit of a rest. Do any teams, are they interested in, you know, the controlling this group of 7 riders, thinking about the potential stage win? I'm thinking possibly UAE. Would they consider it a second stage win for Diego Alesi? Would they put a couple of riders up just to keep it down to about, you know, 2-3 minutes? Because in this very difficult run in towards the finishing line, you know, anything can happen. And you know, they've all had a very difficult start to today's proceedings, but we have got a very difficult final.
Jacopo Guarnieri tucking into some food. Just behind him, Miles Scottson able to have a laugh about things with one of his colleagues from Lotto Soudal.
The thing is, Rob, they have to consider tomorrow as well. Tomorrow is more of a, you know, a guaranteed stage win for a sprint final, and they're going to have to ride on the front pretty much all day. So riding at that speed today and then having to do it tomorrow, you have to look at the energy levels of the team. And you know, it was no surprise when Demar came to the front, but it showed that the team were starting to struggle and needed everybody to contribute.
Ganna and Sagan finally realising that they've been let off the leash.
You're just saying it's all your fault that we've got sore legs now, but yeah, just a little bit of humour between both of those riders.
What a rider they'd be together. Saganna. They started the party, let's not forget. They were the ones attacking on that. That's the Guarnieri on the left.
I think he's just talking about that he tried to bridge to Sagan and Ganna and failed. It's just everybody was on their limit at that moment.
Dale Geoghegan-Hart just behind him. He had alarm bells ringing for a little while, didn't he? Getting in that early move too. Remember, at just 3 and a bit minutes from the lead of the pink jersey. We've now got 25 kilometres until the bottom of the climb. And we've now got around 18 kilometres until the intermediate sprint. So let's say a 10k period here where things start to, or at least can calm down a bit. But not for too long, really. The race organisers can also get organised too. setting up all of their logistical things. You could see the team cars going up ahead. Obviously, the breakaway, Brian, has had to wait for a little bit longer than those in the peloton to get some food and drink, and they're only just going to be able to get it now.
Yeah, nobody taking, very few people taking their feedback. They're taking the opportunity now to get that, and it does have an effect. It's the same when you're in the mountains, very difficult to eat uphill, and then even in the downhill sections you have to remind the riders because they're concentrating, they're keeping their hands on the bars and a technical descent. So it's important to keep on eating at regular intervals during a stage. And you know, when you're flat out racing like we had from the start of today, there'll be a lot of riders not had enough to eat or enough to drink, and you know, that's what they're trying to make up for now.
Problems for Simone Bevilacqua, who is receiving some treatment at the doctor's car. The feeling that he may well have been down then. Just wondering if it was the same incident that caught out Fernando Gaviria. So which train's going faster? Well, for once, the breakaway's been beaten now. Different power sources, obviously. This has been more than legs, though. This has been heart, determination, guts. So much happening in and around this race that the mental pressure must be even worse than normal. Let's see how Joao Almeida, the 22-year-old, is coping. Tell you what, he's having a great Giro, eh? Leading still for a 7th day.
Another day in pink. How was your rest day?
It was nice. I could rest and recover a little bit, and I'm ready to smash another week.
And the breaking news this morning, and then going into a difficult stage. How do you see? How's your motivation? How are the feelings?
Well, it's a hard stage. I think for sure someone from GC will try to do something in the final. And some bad news this morning about the COVID and etc. But I think everyone knows about it, so yeah, it's not good.
We let you go because you are called up for the start already. Stay safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
7th pink jersey for Joao Almeida. Has led a Grand Tour for longer than any other Portuguese rider in history. Cássio da Silva previously led the Giro d'Italia for 4 days and the Tour de France for a couple of days. At 22 years of age, Almeida in charge for a week. He thinks that they'll be moved from the GC today. There's one man who could make them in Haram Verhoeven. Do you agree with him, Brian?
I think Nibali will have a dig for sure on what's happened this morning, and after the rest day, it's seconds. You know, he'll chip away. They may even think that under uncertain times that will we get to Milan? So it's better to be in that pink jersey and potentially win the Giro d'Italia if it does stop. And you know, there'll be questions asked if you do win the Giro d'Italia. You know, was it fair? But I think anything could be said of this in the past through crashes and various other things.
But let's not beat around the bush. If the Giro d'Italia doesn't reach Milan and we get 10 stages, yes, you might be considered a winner, but it will always be asterisk.
Yeah.
You know, and that's nothing against the rider. A 10-stage Giro d'Italia isn't a 21 stage. I mean, if we get to 18, 19, 20 stages, then we can have a different conversation with some big mountain stages up in the north and the Stelvio and all that sort of stuff. But until we get there, you can't say that after a week it's a proper Giro, can you?
No, it will always be... every race during this period, there will always be, you know, kind of some uncertainty, especially when we're getting teams kind of pulling out and things like that. But I said it right from the start, I'm just so thankful that we've got racing on our screens. But you have to look at the health and safety of everybody involved now. And I'm sure that having Mitchelton Scott and Jumbo-Visma now out the Giro, I really have big doubts for the Vuelta now. I know it's very difficult to stop a race, but I really have big doubts about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, play every ball on its merits, as they say in cricket. I mean, every situation is completely different. trying to get the end of what Sagan was saying there.
Yeah, it's a good friend of mine in there, Jens Zemke. Spent a lot of time with MTN and Dimension Data. Former rider, now a very good sports director.
Yeah, and the whole sort of well to yes, no. I really don't think we should actually be going there, because every situation is different. Every country's different. And I mean, the problem that they're going to have here in Spain, where I'm speaking to you at the moment, is that the country's organised very differently than to France and to Italy, and that local government has a heck of a lot more power than the national government. So you could be getting past 17 different governments to try and finish a race rather than just one central government. So that's an issue for a different day. We're inside 80 kilometres to go until the end of stage 10 of the Giro d'Italia. We're back up and running again at the start of week 2. 160 riders made it to the rest day, but I'm afraid we are 2 teams down now. None of the Jumbo-Visma riders starting today. That's after Steven Kruijswijk returned a positive coronavirus test. None of the Mitchelton-Scott riders have started, so we are 2 teams down, plus Michael Matthews returned a positive COVID test, and he obviously has been isolated. Thankfully, both he and Steven Kruijswijk were asymptomatic. There were 4 staff members from Mitchelton-Scott who returned a positive corona test, and 1 each from a couple of other teams, Agio Dessela Mondial and Ineos Grenadiers. Well, the Ineos Grenadiers have continued protocol, and they've isolated their own staff member who tested positive, so no issues there. And they're looking very, very good here again with 2 riders in the breakaway. Ganna and Swift up the road. Cataldo, Villela there for Movistar with them. Clark, Sagan, Restrepo. And for Movistar, boy, do they need a win. The 1st of February 2020 was the last time they were victorious. Marc Soler won in Mallorca. Of course, that's not one of the top-level races. And for a team like Movistar, with all of their investment, all of their grand history, we remind you that it's the oldest professional team still going. 40 years old now, Movistar. They can't go through the season without getting another win, can they?
Well, it's going to be difficult even today. They've got a super chance today with 2 strong Italian riders, Villela and Cataldo, but they're up against another dynamic duo in Ganna and Swift. We know that Swift is going so well, climbing very well. Sagan is going to have to play really smart in this. We know that Simon Clark at the back here, pressure must be on him, because pretty much every time that EF Pro Cycling have got in the breakaway, they've delivered a stage win. So there's a bit of pressure on him, and he'll have to duck and dive. It's the same with the other riders in the breakaway. The other rider, Ristretto, he'll have to think of a way around the fact that Movistar and Ineos have got 2 riders, and Sagan, I think he's going to struggle today. He's already won the battle, and he'll gain some points in that Ciclamino points classification, but I think he'll struggle with the fact that Movistar and also Ineos have got 2 riders. They've got kind of better options, and you can see right from the start on that 4th category climb, Rob, that Ganna was equal on that climb to Sagan, so he looked really impressive. And to add into the fact that Swift is there, but I'm sure that Villela and Cataldo, 2 very strong riders of their own right, will conduct a plan. But this is what I was talking about earlier on, Rob.
They've let the gap grow a long, long way though, haven't they, Brian? 4 minutes, 40 seconds. I know that everybody needed something to eat and what have you, but committing 4 riders now, where it's almost at 5 minutes, have they missed the boat?
Why didn't they help Groupama? That's the question I've got. If they'd have helped Groupama, they would have shut it down straight away, and Lacey would have been in with a chance of a stage. And okay, we're here to talk about why teams do this and why they do this, but in the same circumstance, UAE have had a terrific year, and they've done a lot of things right. I just think that here in this stage, if they'd have helped, we mentioned all they needed to do was put 1 or 2 riders up to help Groupama. Maybe they couldn't get up there. Could be as simple as that, but they want to try and kind of keep this gap down and give Elise the opportunity, but I'd still think it's a little bit too late.
Rosetto degli Abruzzi. I think I spent a Giro d'Italia rest day once there with our colleague Jonathan Harris-Bass, traipsing up and down, looking for a laundrette, all the things you do. It was an equally miserable day. It was 2011 when we drove all the way overnight from Sicily. We weren't in the greatest of moods by the time we'd driven all the way through the night and got there at silly o'clock in the morning to be told that we couldn't check in at the hotel. It wasn't the hotel's fault. Our producer had insisted that we'd driven overnight. We weren't too happy about that, so I think the poor producer had to realise the error of his ways once by the time we got there. I think we then spent the rest of the Giro recovering from that night. We didn't spend too long laid on the sand there, I know that. Looks more like a Tirreno Adriatico day on the Adriatic coast, doesn't it, rather than a Giro day? Yeah. And we're just under 75 kilometres to go. Having a good laugh, those two.
They seem to be getting on very well, don't they? And you need that. That was a brutal start to the stage, and what it came down to 16 seconds just after the feed zone, and they never gave up. They lost 3 riders, the 2 riders from Cofidis. How do you think Cofidis would be feeling now? And the fact that they had 2 riders there, and now they've got no riders in the breakaway. It's not been a very good tour or now Giro for that team.
That was the Colombian Rodrigo Contreras, a late call-up for the Giro d'Italia. Stopping for a mechanical. It's a Comedy Arena tour coming up next when the theatres are open. Peter Sagan, he's at Ghana laughing all the time. Let's see if there's any theatres left after all of this. UAE Emirates have committed the whole team here. Came rather late. I come back to your point there, Brian. If they'd have helped Groupama FDJ, surely they would have shut it down just because of the numbers.
That's the question. I think that was the only team we talked about that if they'd committed just a couple of riders, they would have shut the group down. And now they've put the whole team at the front, and they're going to have to ride hard. You know, Elise tried so hard to get in the breakaway, he failed. Now they've decided to try and bring this gap down a little bit into the very difficult final part of the stage today for Diego Elise, and he's very capable of pulling off the stage. But we can only sit here and think why. Would they come up now when? I think the race had gone, and they're going to have to commit a bigger effort than they would have done if they had only helped Groupama. And how do you think Groupama are feeling now? They'll be thinking exactly the same thing. Why didn't you help? Why are you riding out? Why didn't you help us before?
Well, they're not going to get any help from Groupama now, because Groupama needed this chasing down in the next 6 kilometres to stop the intermediate sprint. After that, they're not really interested because they don't really have a candidate to win the stage today. So they're not going to get any help from Groupama. Can you think of any other team that might wish to ride with them here?
No, I don't think that was the only team that came to mind when Groupama were on the front. Just a couple of riders to help bring it back, and that would have meant that they would have had some sort of control for potentially another Elise win. He is one rider that's very good at these type of kind of steep hill kind of circuits finishes, but I can't think of another team that would want to come to the front and help out.
Seven riders at the front with a very good advantage now of almost 5 minutes. There was only one team trying to chase them down when the gap was as low as 16 seconds, and that was Groupama FDJ. As you can see from that graphic on the left-hand side, one of those teams interested in chasing down was not going to be the Koenig Quickstep. pink jersey with the most dangerous rival in the group at 23 minutes and 14 seconds in the shape of Davide Villela. So no worry for them. It was only Groupama FDJ. They gave everything until they were out of gas. No help from anybody. But now the gap's grown very, very long. It's UAE Emirates working. And they're working committing Richese. They also have riding at the front Valerio Conti. Mikel Biel is putting in a turn or two. And you assume that they're all trying to work to try and help Diego Ulissi. Well, he'd be a little less like that if they'd have had the help at the right time. Adriatic in the background. We're coming to the intermediate sprint, and Peter Sagan was being chased because he's the dangerous man in the Maglia Ciclamino to Arnaud Demar. It's absolutely fascinating, and when people ask, say, why all these different competitions and jerseys? We talked about it last week. This is why. It's a wonderful, wonderful sport on the days where everything seems to affect the next thing. They are like dominoes. First one falls and everything else has to then fall into place. And everybody who maybe didn't want to be in the race at the start of the day or wasn't thinking that today was going to be an important day for them, even all the way down to the GC riders, because they've had to expend 100 kilometres of effort that they would have wanted to be spared, just shows us how everything can affect everything else in cycling.
If you want to win stages, then keep out any other competitions. It's as simple as that. Because even for Visconti, he wanted to try and make the breakaway today, but he knows that EF Pro Cycling would have marked him out of it. Didn't stop him trying, of course, but it's just one of these things that, if you're involved with another competition, other teams will chase you down, and it's very difficult to get yourself in the breakaways. And if you do, you will get chased down. Okay, Sagan in the Ciclamino points competition and get himself in the breakaway, come down to 16 seconds. He's still in with a good chance, but that was a big effort that the breakaway had to make today, and I think that's what UAE are counting on now. They tried to get in the breakaway, and now they're riding on the probably easier part of the stage, trying to keep the gap down. Well, these guys have already made a big effort today to even get in the breakaway and to hold off Groupama. Now they want to use this as a bit of kind of downtime and try and, come back in the last, 40 kilometres when it starts to get, really difficult. So what they're doing now is trying to recover from a very difficult effort to get in the breakaway and hold off Groupama. So they're all rolling through, eating, drinking, and they'll just be concentrating in these final 40 kilometres, because that's where it starts to get very, very lumpy.
You're watching Jakob Fuglsang, who's got to the second week in one of the best positions he's ever been in a 3-week tour in a general classification. He's at 1 minute and 1 second from the overall lead of Joao Almeida. Joao Almeida had a lovely surprise when he got to the podium on Sunday, because he didn't know that his good friend Ruben Guerreiro had won the stage. Found him there on the stage and said it was nice to find himself on the podium with the second Portuguese rider to win a stage at the Giro d'Italia. Of course, Acacio da Silva's GC record has gone thanks to Joao Almeida. He's now not the last Portuguese rider to have won a stage at the Giro. That is now Ruben Guerreiro. 31 years passing between that day on Mount Etna and the other day in Roccaraso. All smiles for Bora Hansgrohe at the minute, and all smiles for this man because it's his birthday. A very happy birthday, Patrick Conrad, today. The Austrian in a very good position in the GC2. 1 minute 11 down, 8th place overall. Best placed, actually, of the GC pairing for Bora Hansgrohe. Rafał Majka is 6 seconds worse off in 10th. The reason he's smiling today is that he's got Sagan up the road. The chatting and the joking is still going on between Sagan and Ganna. Every time they ride through, there's a comment and a laugh. Sounds like they're having a good time.
Maybe something to do with the points competition as well, because Ganna's up there in the points, and he's going to get some points today as well. So he might be saying to him, I said, look, get on my wheel, I'll lead you out if you can try and get past me in the sprint.
That sprint is approaching. I think we're around 2 kilometers away now. 12 points up for grabs, but it goes down to 8 in second place. This is the man that Diego Ulissi, that UAE are riding for, Diego Ulissi. Molano in front of him, then Biel, then Conti, and this is Richese. Richese, back home in Argentina. Richese if he's in Italy, I think, because it is an Italian surname. But rather a lot of newer world countries, 2 or 3 generations down the line, it sort of ends up getting changed, doesn't it? We see that a lot with a lot of the American name. Dombrowski is one, but originally have probably been Dombrovski.
I'm just...
Richese is now Richese.
Plain Smith in Britain and Smith in France.
Schmidt. Brian Schmidt. How many generations of French have you been in Scotland? Look out for Estrepo here as well. It's a good, very, very good profile for him. It's a really strong breakaway wherever you look at it, this. We're approaching that intermediate sprint now. Sagan moving up. Both Filella and Cataldo are really strong to attack on the hills. Sagan and Swift would be the 2 you imagine in the sprint. But Estrepo and Clark are attacking riders as well. Sagan, now we know, is an all-terrain rider. He's a 4x4. So, Sagan out at the front. He wants these 12 points. He's looking to behind to make sure he's not going to be threatened. And Sagan will take the 12 points. So, a big swing back in favour of Peter Sagan. It's not the huge reward of 20 points that you get in the Tour de France if you're out there in the breakaway to try and get back. It's a little different in the Giro d'Italia, but the first job of the day has been done, and he's been reminded about that by Pippo Ganna. Here he goes. Ganna must have been having him on for a few kilometres, saying that he was going to go for it. Look behind and check. 45 points the difference between Demar and Sagan now by my reckoning after that, right?
Yeah, it's closeness, isn't it? How many points can Sagan get back in the final as well? That's the question. So it's going to be a competition that will go on.
There is 1 point up for grabs, by the way, in the chasing peloton. Will this man fight for that single point, or won't he bother? Is there enough energy left in the tank?
Yeah, well, he'll take it. It's a point, isn't it?
Well, let's have a look for him. Where is he? He's not up at the front at the moment, but of course there's 4.5 minutes difference between the breakaway and those chasing. It's UAE Emirates. And the Koenig Quick Step and the Maglia Rosa. Astana after that, then Bora Hansgrohe. It's a long, long way to get to the front here for Arnaud Demar. And a 1 point up for grabs as they're entering Giulianova now, where the sprint is about to happen. Big cheers at the front. And Conti, who was in the Maglia Rosa last year at the Giro d'Italia for a few days, sitting in second place. So 2 kilometres from the intermediate sprint for this group. And just 1 more point up for grabs. Peter Sagan taking 12 points. And in doing so, reducing the arrears from 57 to 45. Groupama FDJ riders right at the back of the bunch. They've lost one of their number today. They were already 1 rider down, with Benjamin Thomas having been forced to pull out midway through the first week. Stage 5 is when they lost Thomas. Today they've lost Ramon Singeldam. Their energies are pretty much spent for today after having chased this leading group for a long, long time. The leading group have finally got some lunch. Buon appetito. Looking behind here from reaches. There's still no sign of Demar. Looking a long way down the group and can't see him, Brian. I wonder if he is going to bother.
Getting closer, isn't it?
Oh, they're inside around a kilometre and a half to go to the sprint now. And we know he looked tired out. Now then, right-hand side, couple of team, that's Lotte Sudal. They've been a big hurry to move up, though. Remember, the prize is a measly point here. But as Brian was saying, they all count towards Milan. Well, they're just out of energy. There we go, no points taken.
That kind of surprised me.
Bunch.
Yeah, kind of surprised me a little bit when you consider that there's 50 points on the line. So Sagan has to win if he wants to take the Ciclamino jersey. So 35 for second place, but like I was just talking about earlier on, it's not going to be easy for Sagan. Sagan was on the lips of many at the start of today's stage before any of this happened, but when you look at the quality breakaway, 2 riders from Movistar, 2 from Ineos, it's going to be hard for him.
I mean, it's very easy for me to ask why they didn't take the point there, sitting in a commentary box in a chair, having not done all that effort for the first 110 kilometres or so. But for our viewers and for me, Brian, just explain to us how much effort would have been required to go in and take that point there. Would it have been that difficult?
No, not at all. It wouldn't have been difficult at all. Just bring them to the front. They're just riding tempo at the moment, so it wouldn't have been that difficult. But, 1 point, I think he's going to need every point. It's better to be in that lead. Say, for instance, Sagan does win today, he'll then go, what, you say 45 points?
Yep.
So he'll go 5 points in the lead. So it could be only 4 points in the lead by then if Sagan wins. So I'm very surprised at that. Maybe they miscalculated, but yeah, I'm a bit surprised at that.
As our colleague Doug Ferguson has just reminded me on Twitter, actually, at Rob Hatch TV or at Bryce Smithy, he says, here's hoping Demar doesn't lose the jersey by a single point in Milan. Again, very easy to sit here and say, why is this, why is that not happening? But as Brian just explained, he thought it wouldn't be too difficult to take the point there. Maybe they think there's 8 riders up the road. You'd imagine that there's a television on in the car somewhere.
Well, there was originally 10. It's attention to detail. I've been in the car myself in a Grand Tour, and it is, you have all that information. I don't think it was overly difficult to know that there is 1 point left.
And in their defence, it's been a chaotic start, but with all the access to apps, I mean, they should have the GCN app on, shouldn't they? Even if they're not watching it on the telly, they should be looking at the text updates and all that sort of stuff. Missing a trick there, lads. .34. So after the intermediate sprint here, the next thing on the menu is the first climb of 2 in Tortoreto. And they're 2 different climbs, completely different sides. Yes, they climb through the town. None of them sound particularly appealing. Whichever way you look, it's 20% gradients or so. And there's Hubungaheho in the blue jersey in the middle with a pink EF panel on the back. And the reason I mention him there, and the reason he's on the picture, is that we've got the first of these climbs and the second of these climbs to Tortoreto as classified. They are fourth category climbs, so 3, 2 and 1 points available. And it's coming up in 3.5 kilometers time. Just pulling the profiles up on screen. First climb, Brian. It's 3 kilometers long, 7.3% average, and that's with the first 3/4 of a kilometer classified at just 1.7%. Then you've got the next half a kilometer at 15.1%, maximum of 18%, and they're about to turn on to the first slopes here. After that, it goes uphill again. And the big feature about all of the climbs we have today, classified or unclassified, is the fact that the gradients change all the time. Lots of little explosive moments. And one man who's pretty good on all of those sorts of terrain, he's missed the break though, and his team are chasing, is Diego Ulissi.
Siamo qui adesso con Diego Ulissi della
With
team Diego
Ulissi. Diego, how do you feel today after all the news about the riders' positives for COVID-19?
Sì, sai, dispiace
Yeah, I feel
molto
sorry for the riders who tested positive for
il
COVID.
risultato positivo al Covid, insomma,
All
a
of our
tutti loro
thoughts
va
go to
il
them this
nostro,
morning.
insomma, pensiero e insomma,
But that's it.
augurano che insomma
Yesterday was a good rest day for us.
velocemente per loro.
And I hope that it
tutto,
goes
niente, abbiamo
away
passato
rather
comunque
quickly for them and they
ieri
get better.
un buon giorno di riposo, siamo
Today,
pronti per
well, we're ready to
affrontare
fight for the second
la
week of the
seconda
Giro on the
settimana del
road.
Giro.
Com'è la motivazione?
What's your
anche
motivation for today's
oggi è una
stage,
tappa per
Diego?
te, come
It's a stage for you, no?
notizie, hai
Sì, sicuramente sai, sono notizie questo, ma basta vedere comunque gli ultimi casi
Well,
di
you've got to
Covid
see
che
the last
l'Italia,
few
insomma, continuano a salire di giorno in giorno.
climbs. It's
Un
difficult.
po' mettono preoccupazione, è naturale.
And of course, in terms of
Però,
what's
insomma,
going on in
bisogna cercare
the
di andare
COVID world,
avanti,
you ask me
niente,
then, well,
personalmente
cases are increasing in Italy, everywhere else in Europe as well. We're all
durante la tappa
concerned.
noi
We need to move
ci
forward,
sentiamo
though, and I think
molto
that
sicuro
we all
quindi
feel good in our
bisogna
team. And
andare avanti
let's hope the situation starts to improve.
niente, dai, sperare che insomma tutto vada per il meglio.
Parliamo di oggi di Chietis.
If we talk about today, then, road's made for you, isn't it? How do you see this stage in
Ma è una
Tortoreto?
tappa che insomma
The stage has got a lot of small difficulties,
ma
but yes, it could
difficilissima
be
da
good for me.
interpretare perché sai, non
However, I think
sappiamo
it'll
se
be
può
too
arrivare la
difficult for me,
fuga
actually.
o comunque giocarsi un gruppo ristretto all'arrivo e niente.
We don't know if the breaks may be going to go away to the finish line, but I think it will finish with a small group. I'll try and take care at the beginning of the race and try not to follow the GC leaders, and then afterwards, well, we'll see if I can play for win, but I don't know.
Sì,
To be honest, have you got something planned for today?
Come ha detto prima, altimetria si dice molto.
Yeah, as we said, the stage has a lot of characteristics
niente,
that
mi
could
piacerebbe essere
be good for me.
protagonisti.
I hope we can ride for the win.
Grazie.
Diego Ulissi wanted to get on with the racing there, and we're getting on with the racing here as we're on these steep slopes of 18%. Cataldo is the rider in the blue with the beard, and remember, he's on home roads as a rider from this region of Abruzzo. Both of the Abruzzesi riders were in the original breakaway, but Giulio Ciccone's legs aren't where they want him to be, or he'd want them to be rather, given his own battle with coronavirus prior to the Giro d'Italia. He was spat out the back when they were still fighting just to be there. And TT coming to the front in the bunch. There's Rowan Dennis on the right-hand side as well. This looks like the fight to be in the right position to be on the slopes and just stay out of trouble, doesn't it, Brian?
Yeah, that's all it is. They know that these steep climbs, people can crunch gears, you can get caught behind and, waste effort trying to come back on. So just make it a little bit more of an effort and trying to come up. And, that's just a simple job. That's every climb. The GC teams will come up and put the GC rider in the perfect place at the front.
Some will be doing the same to keep Wilco Kelderman protected. They had each and every one of their 8 men at the front towards the end of that last climb the other day. Of course, they've had to lose a man with that corona test for Michael Matthews. Here's the right turn onto the foothills of the first climb. And it's the Koenig Quick-Step who win that battle.
Yeah, they can ease up now. So the battle to get onto this road, and then they'll kind of fan across the front of the road and just take it easy, which means it's a little bit more difficult for UAE to keep the pressure on, to keep chasing. The gap has come down to 4 minutes 15. That's only because there was a bit of a kind of race into that corner, but they'll now have to go over this climb and recommence their chase afterwards.
All of these little fights onto each and every climb, though, because we know we've got a lot of these little lumps and bumps that aren't classified. Will that help the peloton chase, or will that disrupt the rhythm?
It would disrupt the rhythm. Not for these riders. They've nothing to kind of really worry about. But for UAE, they'll get they still have to kind of battle and raise the tempo coming into the bottom of these climbs. They have to try and keep the pressure on. They want to keep numbers, so they can't ride too hard up this climb, otherwise they'll tire their team out. So yes, it's going to be a tough ask for UAE to bring this back, and at some stage Elise will have to try and do something in the final climbs towards the end, but by that time they really have to bring the gap down to well under a couple of minutes.
Back with the breakaway. Vilela Cataldo.
Just watch here a little bit. I've been watching Ghana and Sagan, and they're kind of sitting down, trying to keep the gears as low as possible. To see Ghana on the left-hand side just sitting down pedalling, where others are slightly bigger gear out the saddle, and that's the key to saving as much as possible, because these steep climbs really hurt, really bite into the legs, and very important just to keep the gears down in these climbs and save the legs for a little bit later on.
This is that last section at 18%. You just see it levels out a bit now, and this climb gets a little better now in the final 500 metres or so. They are 700 metres from the top now. Just 3 points on offer for the King of the Mountains jersey. We know that Ganna's been in that competition, but he was bumped down out of the jersey the other day by the stage winner, Ruben Guerreiro. Point being made actually on social media, Brian, by David Owen, and he's asking you the question, maybe UAE didn't help Groupama FDJ to chase because we know that Fernando Gaviria crashed.
Yeah, I don't think that was the issue there. We don't know where he crashed, whether it was kind of earlier on, and I think first things first, Gaviria was never going to feature today. It was all about Elise, and if one of your teammates crashes, you still have to commit just a couple of riders to be able to bring that group back, and they might be ruined that come the finish. It only needed a couple of riders from the team. Now they've got the whole team on the front, and they've got I think a bigger job to do, rather than just commit a couple of riders, or even one strong rider in BL. I think he'd have possibly made the difference, but they decide their own team tactics, and so far because they never committed one rider or even two riders towards the chase with Groupama, they've been forced into a long chase now.
Simon Clark wants the points here. He wants to make sure that his teammate Guerreiro stays with a nice lead in the King of the Mountains competition. Just a little movement out there to make sure he picks up the maximum points. Not quite sure whether Filippo Ganna's actively going for that blue jersey still, but he's going to roll through and take second. But clever little bit of riding there from Simon Clark.
Yeah, I think that's what he has to do. He's got the experience, but I really don't think, as you say, Ganna's interested in moving up in the points or moving up in the King of the Mountains. I think he's thinking purely of the stage today. They're in a very good position. You can see Simon Clark just going on the right-hand side. No reaction at all from anybody else, but I think Ineos are in a very good situation of another potential stage win today with both Ganna and Swift.
Remember, EF have 2 stage wins from the first week. They've won both of the mountain stages so far. They've done so from breakaways. It's confirmation that Gamnat took 2, Sagan took 1. Everybody else tries to keep working together. In the meantime, instructions from Matty Breschel there in the car with the mask on towards the Australian Simon Clark. Rain starts falling again. First of our climbs is out the way. Any more where that came from, though?
So the peloton still being led by UAE. Less members this time. Only 4 of them towards the front. Some tired legs at the back of the peloton. As expected, a very difficult start. Now we're on to some of the most challenging parts of this course today. So at the start of the climb there were 7 riders from UAE. Now they only have 4 riders. Biel on the right hand side, Milano there in the middle, Conti at the front. The gap just hovering over 4 minutes. Cataford at the back, crashed a couple of days ago. Must be still suffering from the injuries. So the peloton winding its way up here. Some riders in difficulty at the back. Pink jersey. Another day in pink for Almeida. Being looked after by the Coney Quickstep. And this could have been a very difficult stage for them. But until now, they've really not had to do too much work. Purely because of Groupama and UAE now.
Lots of obstacles everywhere through these towns. It's a feature of Italian racing that we already saw down in the south of the nation. And gap's down to 4 minutes. Still looks good for the break though, as Gruppetto starts to form already behind. Arnaud Demar, unsurprisingly, is in it. It'll be a really aggressive race for the GC guys, this as well. One of those days that looks like it could well just be more or less full gas from start to finish. Added extra bit of spice this morning in that a lot of people will be taking success while they can because they don't know when it's going to end.
Yeah, Groupama have got to work now to make sure that the Mar stays as close to the peloton as much as possible.
Approaching the final 50 kilometres and the party really has started. If it hadn't been an aggressive start already, it's certainly going to be interesting now because we have lump after bump all the way almost to the finish line in Tortoreto. Michael Piel, Valerio Conti, Sebastian Molano doing the chasing. And a really good group of 7 riders up the road with 4 minutes of a gap, including Ben Swift, who's still looking for his first ever Grand Tour stage win. Most of the Grand Tours he's ridden so far have been in support of a really big contender to take the race overall, so he hasn't had too many opportunities. But he's the sort of rider that you imagine that once he finishes his career, he really should have a Grand Tour stage win to his name, given his ability, given his quality. When he's on form, he's a tremendous rider, is Ben Swift. He's somebody that we don't often talk about just because of the team he rides for and the job he seems to do, Brian. The job he has to do for leaders, but ability-wise, he's right up there, isn't he?
Yeah, it's good to see him back, and he's on very good form. at the moment climbing very well from what we've seen already, so you'd expect that he's got good legs in the breakaway. It's always difficult for some riders after the rest day. You don't know how you're going to feel, but the fact that 3 riders were dropped, they couldn't hang on, Cofidis and Ciccone, so yeah, Ben has got a very good opportunity of winning this stage today.
Are there going to be any more differences between first and 10th? 1 minute 17 separating Joao Almeida and Rafael Majka at the moment. Almeida's GC lead has been cut to half a minute. Now Wilco Kelderman, who's second. He rose a place from third to second the other day. It's an interesting climb, that one, in that I don't think it suited everybody. It was with all these irregular gradients. And following the intermediate sprint earlier on today, things are changing in the points classification as well. Arnaud Démare still leads, but his deficit, or his lead now, is 45 points, and started the day at 57. Peter Sagan has an excellent opportunity to add to his clawing back of points as well. It's raining though, and we're still in Abruzzo. Rainy day yesterday on the rest day. We're seeing what will be the finishing circuit. That's on the road that they will descend yet again to the finish. You just saw that 9 kilometers to go barrier. Because we've already been through Tortoreto, the town once, and we finish at Tortoreto Lido, the seaside. In terms of the King of the Mountains competition, the new leader, Ruben Guerreiro, he's got 8 points over Giovanni Visconti. None of them are in the breakaway today, though. Dario Cioni handing a bead on up to Tipo Ganna. Interesting is Cioni. You know, he's done almost every single job in Ineos Grenadiers since he arrived. He's been a rider at the Giro. He's been the press officer at the Giro. And he's now a director sportif. If the British government had anything to do with it at the minute, they'd have him trying to retrain, wouldn't they? What's next, a mechanic or a soigneur? He could complete every single job at Ineos Grenadiers. He's doing a great job as a DS, though, because they've won 2 stages so far.
He certainly has
picked up both of them.
Yep, time trial and mountain stage as well. So, but yeah, a race with Ganna and Swift. This man here, Peter Sagan, will be thinking, how can I win this stage? Because it's going to be very difficult to look at the combination of Movistar with 2 riders, Ineos with 2 riders, and it's the same with Simon Clark, of course, and they'll be hatching a plan. We've got a little bit of a kind of downtime and a little bit of flats, but then we start to hit the climbs again, and with top of the climb, the next climb coming with 39 kilometres to go, and it's pretty lumpy all the way to the finish. So, but I just noticed that UAE, they went good tempo up that climb, and they went from 7 riders at the front to 4 riders at the front, so they'll be hoping that some of their teammates come back and help them out. But you can only think that the gap coming down fairly slowly now, and if they hit this next climb and they've only got kind of 3 teammates to chase, then it's going to be very difficult to bring this breakaway back, because they've had a bit of downtime. They've been trying to recover after a very difficult start, and then they're going to start racing as well once we get into these climbs towards the end.
It's windy as well. 25 kilometres per hour. You could just see those bits of rain rushing past the helicopter camera lens. And most of the actual racing is going to take place in the hills just away from the coast. And then we ride back to the coast for the final 10 kilometres or so. I mentioned a little bit of a downtime. There's a chance for these riders who are dropped on the climb to get back in here. This, in inverted commas, downtime lasts around 10 kilometres. Next climb is to Colonnella. And again, maximum gradient all the way up at 18%. This is a consistently hard climb for 3.1 kilometres. Average gradient is quite a bit higher here. 7, I should say, rather than 7%, it's almost 10%. This is a third category climb, so the hardest categorized climb we have on the menu today. Those little uncategorized lumps as well that will worry a lot of the riders as well. They will know about it. We've talked at length, haven't we, about the apps and about the local course knowledge and things like that. But there's a lot of unclassified climbing as well, apart from the 2 classified climbs we have to go. And the next intermediate sprint, which is also basically a mini KOM.
Looks like Zakarin has had a problem. CCC in the orange trying to bring him back to the front of the race. So this is I'm not going to call it the Gruppetto as yet, but this is the group of Arnaud Demar, but you can see CCC at the front trying to bring back Zakarin. But the numbers at the front of the main group, you've got UE. They had 7 riders. It looks as if a couple of the riders, as expected, have come back to the front, but you can only think that, you know, they're starting to struggle as well. The gap coming down a little bit to 3 minutes and 39 seconds, but this is a big ask for UAE to be able to do this.
CCC doing a decent job at the moment. Again, it's called the Demar group, as Ryan was saying. 20 seconds still to close, though. Although it looks a little less on that camera shot now. They're certainly getting everything, those in the orange jerseys. And no wonder, because Zakarin's still fairly well placed, isn't he? 14th overall at 1 minute and 56.
Might just be a simple case of that tricky descent. We know what he's like at descending, not very good, and, you know, gaps opened, and, you know, the team will be thinking, no, not again, we're having to ride because you can't go downhill. But we don't know. We've not heard if he's had a mechanical or anything like that, but they're bringing him back. In the meantime, Biel riding at the front, just over 3.5 minutes now, and will anybody else help out? I can't see anybody helping out now, but they really need to keep this going. And the closer we get to these climbs towards the end, and it's going to be left to what, Biel and Conti. And on that climb just there, Rob, it was Biel, Conti, Milano and Ulisi, the only riders that were left towards the front.
I'd be really interested to hear the opinion of the sports directors of UAE Emirates this evening as to the mechanics of what went on with Groupama there. Whether those two teams were talking, whether they were overconfident that Groupama were going to do the job themselves, and maybe playing a bit of poker and saving their own energy for later on. Meantime, there's more energy being added to the chase here, and Josef Cherny has just inserted himself into that 5-man group to try and pull back Zakarin. Looks as though that bit by bit they're getting there, but as we saw before, Brian, until you get on, it's not done, is it?
Yeah, maybe a slightly different scenario before, but almost the same. UAE pushing on the front of the peloton, but CCC are coming. I think they will make the junction. I've no doubt about that, and they'll bring the rest of the group behind. Just when you thought the Gruppetto was forming the kind of back group, that somebody like Zakarin misses out and, you know, drags you back to the front of the race.
Metre by metre they get there. Not too far away now from the climb to Colonnella. The most difficult one we've had so far. Over 3 kilometres long. Consistently difficult gradient with a couple of even worse kicks of double-digit stuff. Demar losing the wheel again.
Can't really do that.
Well, they'll be starting to worry about time gaps and thinking things like that. I mean, if they hold on for another few kilometres of this group, it's better, obviously, but is it conceivable that they'd be worried about the time cut, or with 45 k's to go, are they all right?
I think they're okay. It's been a fast stage, but I think they should be okay.
We thank our lucky stars that the Giro d'Italia has returned for week 2. I think everybody might have been a little worried this morning, and I'm sure they will be again this evening. But we thank them because it's been an enthralling watch yet again, despite all the stuff that's going on around it. This is the front group. Restrepo, Clark, Villela, Ganna, Cataldo, Sagan. Alongside Swift, British champion from Yorkshire. Wears the stripes well, doesn't he? He certainly showed them off at this particular race. Adam Verhoeven spotted in this front group. In fact, apart from Zakharin, I think all of the main GC contenders were there. And Zakharin himself is back. Panic over for the moment for CCC. What about the breakaway zone opinion? Because UAE are actually doing a decent job on this flat section. 3 minutes, 6 seconds now, Brian.
Yeah, they brought it down. But I think looking at the previous climb, that they're going to pay for it. They're putting a bit of energy into the chase, but you know, when we come on to kind of lumpier bits, it's very difficult. And on these steep climbs, because the next climb is a maximum 18%, and you can't. It's just about getting up these climbs. You can't really kind of chase on these climbs, so it's. It will continue to come down. The top of the climb comes with 39 kilometres to go. But I just do think that UAE have probably left it a little bit too late, and I think we might be expecting Ulisi to maybe have a go himself rather than kind of wait for his teammates to kind of try and bring him back.
It's on his terrain. This is the man he's already thwarted once. It's on a short, steep climb to Agrigento. Peter Sagan was beaten by Diego Ulisi. Three minutes with 43 kilometres to go, and climb after climb after climb still remaining. The next one is Colonella. It starts in 1.5 kilometres, and Giro 103 is still with us after 10 stages. We don't know how long it will be with us, given all that happened at the start this morning, but we're enjoying the enthralling racing it's given us today. Ilnur Zakharin was caught out on the last climb. His team had to work hard to close a nigh on 30-second gap, but CCC do not want to make the same mistake again, and they are adding their weight to the front of this chase. It's being led by UAE Emirates. Pink jersey's been kept nice and safe. They're dealing with this really well, the Koenig Quick-Step. They have kept Joao Almeida fantastically protected over all sorts of different terrain. They've shown themselves to be a really good, versatile team since they took the jersey on Mount Etna. 7 really strong riders they're chasing. They've been in what looks to be the worst of the weather at the minute, but given that we're riding loops around town right now, we shall be going back into the cloud there later on. Big fight for the front. I mean, Brian, you said they're going to pay for this. You can see that they are putting in some big effort at the front of the chase. There's a real difference if you look at the rhythm of the two groups.
I think now, because of you know what's happening in the race, they're using it the kind of flat. They know that there's 7 strong riders in front, and so they have to use the flat to their advantage, because these riders are going to bowl along at the front on the flat, and then they'll ride good tempo in the climb. But for the team of UAE behind, I think it's important they use the flat to try and bring this time gap down as quickly as possible, because some of them might not be there after this next climb, and so they have to use the team to their advantage.
There's going to be a big fight behind for that left turn as well, you can see. Takes them onto this road. It's the entrance to the road that's rather narrow, and this is where they start climbing. It's Colonella, 3.1 kilometres in length, climbing almost 300 metres. Average gradient of almost 10%, maximum gradient of 18%. On paper, this is the hardest of the climbs they're going to take on. But the maximum gradient of 24% is still to come later on. This is Davide Villela, the man from north of Italy, formerly of Cannondale.
Just look at Ghana again in the cadence. Everybody else can out the saddle, maybe 1-2 gears up, but Ghana riding well. He's just thinking of saving the legs, because he knows that you know, he will need as much energy to try and take another stage win in this year's Giro. But NTT now leading the way with Pozzovivo into this hard climb.
done a good job, rather like the Koenig Quick-Step, without their A-team to protect their leader, and Vivo will be feeling better and better about things. For one reason or the other, the rivals are falling away. A couple of rogue riders with the bunny hops there. Everybody else staying the right side.
The left side.
See what you've done there. Here's Victor Caponats, looking for a new contract and a new job next year. NTT still to announce a new sponsor. Now then, Dario Cataldo looking around. And he's stolen a march. Cataldo on home roads, and the fight for the stage has begun, Brian.
Yeah, and they started early. And Ben Swift up to it. You could just see the chief commissar or the referee just behind, and the car just waving the motorbike away, thinking it was too close. But they've already had a very difficult start. Here's the movement here, just a move to the right-hand side. An acceleration, gap coming down, tired legs, and this has opened up the breakaway, and the racing has started.
Is this starting so early because the gap's coming down, or because it's still, we must get rid of Peter Sagan?
Yeah, I think it's a case of that. Peter Sagan now under pressure, because what he doesn't want is Ineos and Movistar, both of two riders in the breakaway going down the road. The onus then is on him to do the chasing, and that's what he's trying to do now.
Pink jersey in great position at the start of the climb. It's NTT who begin the climb, and UAE, as you predicted, Brian, for now have fallen away. Now Villela behind is just spinning back onto the group. Ganna being dropped out the back. Clark not reacting too well either. Sagan, in the meantime, is reacting brilliant. It looks as though he's trying to close the gap while still looking at the numbers and making sure he doesn't go into the red.
Yeah, he's doing it slowly.
Strep on his wheel, sorry, Brian.
Yeah, he's doing it very slowly. And this is a bit of a surprise with Ganna just being distanced now, and Cataldo pushing for the moment. Ben Swift just holding on to the wheel, but this is a hard effort when you consider that they've been riding flat out for pretty much half the stage. They've had a bit of downtime before we started these climbs, but it's going to be a brutal final, and the gap coming down to 2 minutes and 18 seconds. So I'm expecting something from Ulisse, possibly in this climb.
As we saw the other day, though, on these steeper sections, do not count out Pipo Ganna. He was dropped, wasn't he, on the stage he won on the road on those 18% sections again, but he worked his way back on with his power. He's got to hang on for 3 kilometres here, though. He's on the wheel of Simon Clark, who's at the saddle there in that jazzy EF jersey. Gap to the peloton is reducing at quite a rate as well, you have to say. 2 minutes, 13 seconds. It might not be a guarantee that the breakaway takes this. Now, Swift has been caught by Sagan. Good news for Cataldo is that Villela's on the way back too with Restrepo. Again, hat off to Sagan. Every challenge that's been presented in front of him today, he has overcome. And today feels like everyone's been trying to stop Sagan winning in different ways, and he just keeps responding, keeps getting up again.
Yeah, so far so good for Sagan. Looking good as well. But still, Movistar have got two strong riders in this front group, and he was just looking around to see, what the damage was done. But like you say, we cannot really kind of discount Filippo Ganna, because he struggles on the steep parts, but he does come back.
The problem that Ganna's going to have here, as we look at Vincenzo Nibali, the problem that Ganna might have today is that it's not one long climb with an opportunity to recover. It's short, steep climb and steep section after steep section. Look at that. We were told 18%, but that sign says 20. As now Swift has another dig. He obviously is feeling good, and he wants to try and shake Sagan, or at least make it as difficult as possible. And it's not just Sagan he'll be thinking of. He's also thinking of that numerical superiority that Movistar had. Of course, they're a Spanish team, but they have their 2 Italian riders in here. This is Cataldo, the local boy from Abruzzo. The man who's with him a little further down in the group is the 29-year-old Davide Villela. He's from just the north of the country, very close to Bergamo. He's back at the Giro, but for the first time in his new team. He's come across from Astana, by the way, with Cataldo. And if you think back to last year's Giro d'Italia, Cataldo was a stage winner, wasn't he? There were plenty of climbs like this on the way to Como on that day. Cataldo now 35, and another little interesting thing to add into the mix, Brian. He's a former teammate of Ben Swift. They both rode together at Team Sky, didn't they?
They did, but this race is changing even more now.
Wow.
You've got NTT really pushing now, the gap coming down to a minute and a half. So, like you said, Rob, this is not over. Although they're starting to fight in the front, well, we've got a big push from behind, and it's coming from NTT. This is what we talk about all the time. It's, expect the unexpected, and this day might not have been a big GC day, but it looks as if we could be seeing somewhat a shake-up with Pozzovivo looking to try and gain some time now.
Well, the final climb tops out with 11 kilometres to go. Final climb that has that 24% gradient. It's the steep walls of the east of Italy. 9 points available here for this third category climb, but this lot are thinking about the stage. That gap has recalculated to just over 2 minutes now. It did look rather fierce, didn't it, when it suddenly was showing 1 minute and 20 with NTT riding on the front. We'll see how it stabilises when we get over the top here. I remind you that the time gaps are taken by the motorbikes following the groups normally. We also have the GPS and tracking systems involved now on each bike. NTT are certainly taking it to the rest now. 40 kilometres to go. We are told that it's a 2 minute gap. No sign yet of Clark or Ganna getting back on. This is Restrepo, the Colombian, at the back. At the best start of the season ever. Now then, another move. Another move, and it's Cataldo. King of the Mountains points on offer up here. And maybe another opportunity to go over the top and make everybody else chase. And this is what Movistar will do. Sagan is making sure that he tries to close the gap while he can. Of course, he's not really interested in the King of the Mountains points, but there's more at stake here. He wants to make sure that Cataldo doesn't go over the top and ride away. He's already tried once. It's pretty clear that Movistar's tactic is to go at this early, given the fact that they have strong riders, but they don't really have a sprinter, do they?
No, I think they have to use their numbers. We say it all the time. If you have good numbers in the breakaway, you have to use them to your advantage. But Sagan is up to the task, and he knows now that Ghana now gone. He only has Swift to worry about, but his main problem is the two riders from Movistar. And Villela, it doesn't look as strong, but you don't have to be as strong as long as you can play the tactics, play the 1-2 like Brendley and Dowsett did the other day, then you're in with a good shout. But on the inclines, Sagan does look strong.
I wouldn't be counting out Restrepo in any sort of sprint to the line, but of course in the company of Swift and Sagan, you'd see it difficult to see him beating them. But he is, of course, a fast finisher too. And today's been a really hard day. So Movistar's their team that really needs to attack it early on. This was Cataldo taking maximum points. Sagan following him. Ben Swift third in the King of the Mountains. Fourth there to Villela. And fifth place, the final points taken by the man from Androni Giocattoli. In the break yet again. They've only missed it once at this Giro so far. NTT with Sobrero. And this is the chase on from Clark and Ganna. 33 seconds, Brian. Can they do it?
Really depends what happens in front. If they start playing tactical, attacking each other, then they can possibly come back. If they ride with each other, then I don't think it's possible at 31 seconds. But it'll be interesting to see how Movistar play this one, because I think what they have to do is just keep on doing 1-2, 1-2 and see if they can tire out Sagan. Groupama couldn't do it earlier on, so it's going to be very difficult.
The next climb to come just comes in a few kilometres' time. There's no big descent from this one, by the way. Downhill a little, but the next climb is actually disguised, Brian, as an intermediate sprint. There's 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds at the top of the Controguerra climb. And it's a climb that goes up to 24%. It's short, a kilometre long, but with an average gradient of 10%, and that little bit of a section, that strappo, as they say around here, at 24%. 1:46 over the peloton, with 36.5 Ks to go.
The thing is,
Italians of Cataldo and Villela, Sagan, Restrepo here at the back, and the British champion Ben Swift.
yeah, they can't kind of mess about too much because they know the gap coming down under 2 minutes to the peloton. Still with 36.5 kilometres to go, so they have to keep on riding, so it's a bit more pressure. They can't relax at all, so the pressure is on the 5 in front. But if they don't push on, then there's an opportunity for Ghana and Simon Clark to come back, but all the time the peloton getting somewhat closer, so still not done and dusted for the breakaway now. It's getting very interesting, the fact that NTT are now riding at the front.
And they continue to do so. Ben O'Connor's been added into the mix as well on that last climb. Pozzovivo sits third. Just behind him, you can see 2 riders protecting front and back the Maglia Rosa. The first of those is James Knox, rider from Cumbria in the northwest of England. Behind him, I think that was Seri, Belgian rider. 28 seconds behind Ganna and Clark. And the consequence of Ineos Grenadiers sending riders up the road in breakaways at the moment is that they're now leading the team classification as well, Brian. Took a big lead of 11 minutes in that after the mountain stage the other day. Swift in the front group, Ganna in the second for those Ineos Grenadiers. Brony looking for another stage win through Restrepo. Remember, they got one last year, didn't they, through Fausto Masnada. Movistar, well, they won the whole thing last year. But this 2020's been very different. Only one pro win since the start of the season. Movistar. So often during the mid part of the last decade, they were the UCI #1 team until Quickstep went on that run of winning millions of races a year. But Movistar with just one single victory this year, and it came on the 1st of February.
Well, these 2 riders are getting closer. That's Ghana and Simon Clark, and the thing is, Ben Swift can't afford to kind of sit and tell the other riders that he's waiting for Ghana to come back, because the peloton are getting closer and closer all the time as well. So it puts pressure on these riders. They have to keep on continuing to ride with each other, and they've had a hard stage so far, a fast stage so far, and with 34 kilometres to go, and what NTT are doing at the moment, this could turn out to all coming back together, and we could see a battle between the GC riders. And I know we can back onto the flat for a flat finish, and who can kind of hang on to the GC front group and sprint to the victory. So 1 minute and 30 from the front of the race to the peloton, it's not a lot. We've got this climb to Controguerra coming now. It's disguised as an intermediate sprint, as I said. 1 kilometre long, and there it is. Snakes up that hill, maximum gradient of 24%. Ganna and Clark can see the pain that's coming. After that, we've got 2 uncategorised climbs, again pretty steep, and the final 2 uncategorised climbs are both up in and around Tortoreto. Oh, and this is going to hurt. 24%. They will literally be swinging, Brian. I was on some climbs like this around Bath yesterday, but I was at walking speed. In fact, my Wahoo head unit went into auto pause. But tough climbs for everybody, and especially after a very difficult stage, a very fast stage. And Nobody's trying to take advantage here. And these steep climbs, you can see it on the camera here, that it will all condense down. 1 minute 30, you'll be able to see them on the climb. So that, you know, the race will condense down. 24 seconds. I don't think Clark and Ghana are going to make it. We're just kind of waiting on the reaction from the peloton. Who's going to attack here? And by the looks of things, we could see an attack here from Pozzovivo.
Look at the pain there on the right-hand side for Simon Clark. Rather you than me, mate. Ouch. 1:27 back to Pozzovivo and company. And just for context, Domenico Pozzovivo sits fourth overall at 53 seconds. He can see an opportunity here for a Giro d'Italia towards the end of his career, when he least expected it as well. And there is the race approaching the base of the climb. It's just about on it through those trees.
And those cars are in the middle of the gap as well, as it's all condensing down. Just coming out the trees, you can see NTT now. So Lacey still in contention on the right-hand side.
There was Pozzovivo just sitting behind O'Connor. He had Meintjes just behind him as well. Meintjes, who's rumoured, by the way, to be on his way to Circus Wanty next year. Here they come to the intermediate sprint. Remember, 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds available. Nothing doing for the Maglia Ciclamino, but Sagan will take it anyway. Ganna at 22 seconds now.
Yeah, he sat on Simon Clark as much as he could, trying to come across now. So it's a bit of now or never now for Ghana to come back to the front.
He has 6 kilometres downhill, Brian. 6 kilometres, either false flat or descent. There's a bit of a chance here. And that's before the next climb starts. And maybe an explanation as to why he was getting closer as well. A little bit of looking around, nobody really wanting to press on from the group as they went over. That was Restrepo and Sagan. Look at this. Oh, the Flemish might be on the side of the road, but it's the South African team for their Italian leader who have brought this now to within almost a minute. And Ben O'Connor is giving absolutely everything here for Domenico Pozzovivo. So much so that Micah can't keep up. That Meintjes can't keep up, rather.
I think he changed gear there a little bit, and he had a bit of a mechanical, but it does look as if Ghana is coming back to the front of the race now. Just looking a little bit further behind. The pink jersey is there. He's suffering a little bit. He's still got some teammates there.
Slipping and sliding behind. Oh, look who else is suffering. A hooker filling the harem. And it's doing plenty of damage. Wall after wall after wall. And we're only really about halfway through all of these little walls we're taking on. Next two are unclassified. There's a threat of that weather hanging around as well. What an enthralling day. Started with drama off the bike. They've got plenty of it on the bike as well. Harem Verhoeven in trouble. Lotto Soudal's white jersey wearer in 7th overall. He's at 1 minute 02 from Almeida. You know what? Lurking behind him in the young rider classification as well at just 12 seconds is Jai Hindley of Sunweb. So Harem Verhoeven has challenges just about everywhere. Now Ghana's made it back on and he's going to attack off the front. We said not to count this man out. And Ineos Grenadiers have the numbers again. What a fascinating day at the Giro d'Italia.
Yeah, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it just takes the pressure off Swift a little bit now. You can just see the amount of red zone that they've been in. Ghana goes on the attack. Ben Swift just looks around, but nobody's going to give him any help whatsoever. And, you know, he has to do it himself.
Sagan looking around. Not you again. He's gone. That was Cataldo who had the chase in the blue. Sagan going with him as well. And now Swift has closed the gap. Time for the next move, but all of this stop-start stuff is playing right into the hands of the peloton, Brian Smith.
Yeah, I don't really think the breakaway are going to succeed today. It's been really hard for them all. And, the gap coming down a little bit more now, just over 1 minute. And, still a large group behind. And you can see there's a lot of tired legs and expected so, because at the end of the day, it's been a very fast start. Hitting these climbs, how much energy have you been able to save? We also had the situation where we saw the sides of the breakaway when Demar's team were on the front. They're all on the point of the saddle. They're all giving absolutely 100%, and they're starting to pay for it now as we're starting to hit these steep climbs.
The numbers they're putting out just to follow there, 540 watts from Peter Sagan, whilst trying to drink at the same time. Pozzo Vivo must be feeling wonderful today, because they are committing like they've never committed before, NTT.
Yeah, I've not seen them do this since the restart, and this is good racing. What's Pozzo Vivo got back? When is he going to launch? Look at the size of the group now. There's a lot of riders in difficulty. Not too sure as we look to the back. Van Hocker is there. Whether he had a bit of a mechanical, we don't know, because I'd be surprised if he was getting dropped, but he looks as if he's at the back of this main contenders group.
Domenico Pozzovivo is making a 20th Grand Tour here. He's the oldest of the race's GC contenders. At the start, only Adam Hansen and Peter Wening were older than him on the start list. Of course, we've since lost Wening to a crash. And Domenico Pozzovivo is approaching 250 stages ridden at the Giro d'Italia down the years. It all goes well at the start of next week. He'll be riding for a 250th time at the Giro. Doesn't look like it's all going well for Harm Verhoeven, because he was shaking out the legs there. Pozzovivo 37. 3 times in the top 10 overall. He's taken a Giro stage win all the way back in 2012. Is today going to be another 8 years down the line? We're off for a very quick commercial break, but do not leave this one alone. Those of you who are still with us on our digital channels, you have made the right decision. This can go off at any time, as we've seen with, I think we better start calling him Super Pippo, like they used to call Pippo Inzaghi, the great Milan striker. Super Pippo Inzaghi, Super Pippo Ganna, because he is everywhere. Scored a couple of goals already, hasn't he, with his stage wins? Might be another goal or another assist today, if Ben Swift can get it. His presence is helping Swift as well. Let's not forget that. The numbers that you've talked about, Brian.
Yeah, it's a big thing that he's back, and okay, he's struggling a little bit in the steep inclines, but he closed that gap there. And I don't think it was by choice that he got dropped in the first place, but now he's back. He can play a massive part in Ineos trying to win this stage. And by the looks of things in the group behind, they've still got about 4 riders in the group behind as well, so they do have some big numbers. So even if these riders are brought back, then there's still an opportunity for some of them from behind.
Gap is hovering dangerously close to a minute now. There was Villela, the 29-year-old. 3 career wins to date for him. All of them in Asia, though. None on the Europe Tour, none on the World Tour. Of course, he's won the Tour of Almaty, a stage, and the GC in Kazakhstan, as well as the Japan Cup, the season-ending Japan Cup. Chasing group as the rain falls, being led by NTT, and it's becoming a much more select group with every moment that passes. 6 remain at the front. Sagan has done so much today. He's certainly shown that whatever happens here, he's in the fight for the Maglia Ciclamino. But he wants a stage win, we know that. Now not too far away from our next little climb. Next little climb is Colle Luna, a climb into the moon. Three kilometres to go until they get to the next uncategorised climb, Colle Luna, Moon Hill. I wonder if that is where Domenico Pozzovivo has earmarked an attack, either there or further down the line, because we've got two climbs from different sides of Tortoreto to come after that, followed by a 10-kilometre run into the finish down at the seaside, Tortoreto Lido. 14 seconds for the six-man group ahead of Simon Clark. 58 seconds for this six-man group ahead of the peloton. It was looking pretty good when they had 5 minutes for a stage win here. But so many things have come together to conspire against the breakaway. They might still do it, but it's a bigger ask than it was. 2 from Movistar, 2 from the Ineos Grenadiers, 1 from Androni. Sagan is the man from Bora Hansgrohe. And Simon Clark seems to be making his way back. 14 seconds, but as it goes uphill again, it's going to be a big ask. We're inside the final 25 Ks. The Maglia Rosa will be hoping to hang on. Let's get some expert opinion on this finish from our very own Bernard Eisel.
I keep it short today because there's so much racing and so much happening out there at the moment. I'm right after the finish line here in Tortoreto Lido, and as you can see, it's also raining here. When the riders go over the final ascent in Tortoreto, there comes a tricky downhill, freshly tarmacked, but a lot of hidden switchbacks and a lot of corners, so the riders have to be really careful coming down here to the coast. When they come to the coast, 5 kilometers to go, there's a series of corners. To the right, left, right again, and then they come onto the final straight, where it's only one more difficulty, and that's one roundabout at 1.7 kilometers to go. It narrows, and that's right, the road there is super slippery. After the roundabout, it opens up again, and it's more than a 1 kilometer straight line to the finish. So it's interesting. Let's go back to racing.
Thank you, Bernie. A real good look at the finish there. And we've been talking about the climbs, but let's not forget that descent in this wet weather. Those turns as well on roads that are bathed in water after the downpour. And look at that at the seaside. Certainly not a sandcastle day, Brian.
No, it's a Drichte, and the riders will have to watch that descent, as Bernie says. But yeah, I still don't think it's a big opportunity here for the riders in the breakaway. Unfortunately, 36 seconds now to the peloton led by NTT, and who would have thought that NTT would have come up today? I don't think UAE had the manpower to bring these riders back, and I know that Urlesi is still in this group behind, but for NTT to do this, Pozzovivo, as you say, Rob, must be feeling very good. And when is he going to go? Is he going to wait to the final climb that tops out with 11 kilometres to go?
You wonder if it's sharp weather as well again. Haven't seen too much of Trek Segafredo today, though. Pale Bilbao is being brought to the front and being ready and positioned for Bahrain McLaren. There's just 41 seconds now from the breakaway to the peloton, and there's more moves. Sagan this time is having to chase from third position. Once more they throw a left jab at him. Once again they fail to land a right hook. Sagan survived so much today. I mean, whatever you think of the man, whoever you're cheering for, what a show he has put on, because it's been the world against Sagan from start so far.
It's tremendous. He wants to push on, and the other riders don't want to push on, and You know, that time it was Villela that went on the attack, but starting to pull out the cars. The gap's coming down now. Sagan must be thinking, what do I have to do to win a stage here? I thought today was the day, big effort, but you can just see that tiredness start to settle in now. You can just see Ben Swift getting a little bit lower on his bike now. The wind coming from the right-hand side. Sagan, however, still looks strong.
He's got better and better as the season's gone on, hasn't he, Peter Sagan? Didn't look himself at the Tour de France, even though he was aggressive and combative as ever. That's it for Simon Clark. He got as close as 13 seconds towards that last climb. But it's still Ben O'Connor, the West Australian, who is helping to put the Southern Italian Pozzovivo up to the front. He sits third wheel behind Louis Meintjes, the South African. And there is Hermann Pernsteiner as well, the first shark sighting of the day, towards the front of the race too. Vincenzo Nibali, never far from the action. He lost a little bit of time the other day, but he actually got closer to the lead. I've given Joao Almeida's shipping of a few seconds. Just for the record, Nibali now 5th at 57 seconds. This is all that's left of the GC group. Looks as though it could be a GC day. Here's Castro Viejo, who's in the break the other day. Disappointed on the line, the man from Ineos Grenadiers. He's the gates to the top 20 in GC as well. He's at 4:54. Now then moves, and here we go, Pello Bilbao time. Pello Bilbao is looking at an opportunity to take something very special from the Giro d'Italia. 2 stage wins last year. This time, he's thinking of pink.
Yeah, and it's Astana that are first to the front to close this one down. So, yeah, just when you thought that they would maybe look round at Deconi Quickstep, here we see the attack now. Just as the rider from NTT just swings over. So, yeah, it's kicking off. Interesting GC day.
Basque Country type weather, Basque Country type climbs. Short and very, very steep. The breakaway is trying to survive, but it only has 23 seconds. And if you're wondering what that Bilbao attack might mean, now then, problems for Domenico Pozzovivo. And after all of that work, after all of that hard work, Domenico Pozzovivo is so unlucky. This must be an absolute sickener, Brian.
Yeah, you can see him just going into the corner, look like a puncture, but panic from the mechanic there, and he's got 2 teammates that will get him back. But just as you thought that you know, they were in the driving seat, when's Pozzovivo going to be attacking? He just sat here, and look at the rider on the right hand side, had to go straight on. Always comes to a stop. Well, he does come to a stop now, and luckily his team car is not that far behind. But just when you thought that they were looking good, then problems. But look at this descent, Rob. This is really treacherous.
It's a day for brave souls. 21 Ks to go. They've been over Colle Luna. Next, Tortoreto times 2.
And this is Ghana pushing on. Ghana's pushing on from the group in front. Bilbao still has a tentative. I hate watching it. I don't mind being in it sometimes, but I hate watching it.
Look at that again. Oh dear. That's Boado trying to chase.
Yeah, pressure on everybody.
You can see somewhere Brian are coming a cropper almost there as well. Just in the white jersey behind Brian.
It's the riders at the back as well. And even these riders here trying to chase Ben O'Connor, trying to bring Pozzovivo back. These are the riders that are probably more danger. They've got cars. You know, this is where disc brakes come into their own. But yeah, this is treacherous conditions for everybody.
From dreaming of pink to thinking about saving the day. That's how quickly can change for you at the Giro d'Italia, and Pozzovivo suffering that. Talking of pink dreams, Pello Bilbao is at 39 seconds from Joao Almeida's pink jersey, as we see Dario Cataldo regaining contact with the front of the group that is 5 strong. Oh, it's going to be a miracle if we have no spills here, Brian.
I was just about to say, this is going to be a crazy final. Crazy.
First of 2 climbs around Tortoreto. 20 kilometres remain and 21 seconds over Pello Bilbao for a five-man break that has been out there for quite a while after having to fight like fury to get the gap. Pello Bilbao has chased on and attacked from the peloton, a peloton that is splitting up behind because of a very, very wet road and a lot of nervous wheels around those descents. They're about to go climbing again, though, and the climbs up to Tortoreto both have 20% gaps and gradients. They're uneven. There's sections that are harder, sections that are easier, and it's kicking off from just about everywhere. Astana doing the bulk of the chasing here of Pello Bilbao. He wants to take it on from the front, right?
Yeah, bold move, and a good move. Who's going to take it on? Because Astana, De Koning and Trek just kind of sitting fanned across the road. In fact, I think it's Fuglsang. It's just on the inside now. Just looking further back and just seeing the right-hand side, you can see that Pozzovivo is being brought up the left-hand side of the road.
Looks like he's still got a way to go to get through those cars, though. It's not ideal terrain, is it, here, as Sagan and Swift now go from the front. And problems for Movistar because Villela can't close. And Movistar, on strong terrain where they really should be taking the race to others, are being dropped, Brian.
Yeah, it's okay having the numbers, but you have to have the legs to be able to deliver. But while this is happening, looks like Peter Sagan at the front of the peloton. Bilbao is gaining ever so slowly.
This is Pozzovivo, being put in trouble, being given a lot of problems. He goes straight past De La Parte, the Basque climber for CCC. But Pozzovivo, it's heartbreaking when you see that happen. All of the work they were doing, he must have been feeling so good. And he's now trying to survive as Cataldo is caught by Bilbao, and Bilbao is pulling out on the peloton now.
Yeah, he is. He's definitely going for it, and he'll be soon up to the riders in front, and no big reaction from the riders behind. But the problem for Pozzovivo is the riders that are getting dropped, and the cars will be dropping back as well. And yeah, he's got a hard fight, probably the wrong time to go on the attack. But these two riders, Sagan and Swift, still battling it out in front, still in with a chance, but I think only a real slim chance now that Bilbao is starting to come.
You have to hand it to them. They have been going all day long. The minute they're giving their breakaway companions a right kicking. Now Bilbao reaches this group. Sagan and Swift power on. Peter Sagan has some form now. It's yet to translate into a win. But if this carries on and the Giro d'Italia continues, surely it has to come sooner rather than later.
Definitely looking good, looking strong, and Swift getting his kind of second win back now, but there has to be a reaction from the peloton behind because of Bilbao. They're trying to keep a little bit of order, but a good effort from the man just at front here from Barry and McLaren. I don't think he's going to get any help from the riders behind, but it'd be interesting to see who's actually doing any riding. And is this Sunweb at the front now?
Well, Pello Bilbao could take the Maglia Rosa today. 39 seconds. Remember, there's a 10-second bonus for the winner of the stage as well. That is why they'll be worried. And this is Peter Sagan riding for the Koenig Quick-Step.
We just looked at a little bit further behind at the blue car, Pozzovivo.
Theo Gegenhardt, by the way. Theo Gegenhardt making a move. He wants time back on the GC. Sorry to interrupt, Brian, but that's a big move from Ineos Grenadiers. And this could pull things back and set off some more fireworks.
Yeah. James Knox is starting to struggle a little bit. Almeida has tried to come to the front. Siri says no. Then he goes pop. So Siri going. James Knox struggling, so De Koning Quick-Step are in trouble now, real trouble.
This is the first time, apart from the finish the other day, that we've had to see Joao Almeida fighting for his own Maglia Rosa as Harm Verhoeven is drifting away from the white jersey. "17 seconds for Pello Bilbao at the moment. Didn't look good earlier on, did he? But there's confirmation that Harm Verhoeven is going to lose some time today.
And the only problem he's got is he's got absolutely no teammates round about trying to help him as well. So still hanging on to this, but only with a small advantage. They'll be hoping that Bilbao gets across to them, because Bilbao will ride. The danger for the riders in front now comes from the peloton, and I think DeConey Quick-Step losing numbers all the time. Somebody has to take control of this race, and we talked about it before. As we see, Pozzovivo's made it back on it. Who's going to take up the riding at the front of the peloton now?
Well, that's nice to see. Whoever you're wanting to win here, whichever rider you are supporting, Domenico Pozzovivo having a puncture at just about the worst moment after his team had done the work to light this up. I think it's only good that he's at least back in the group here. Bilbao has taken almost half a minute on this group now. And that means he's very close to being the virtual leader of the race. He'd want to ride with these guys, of course, to gain time in the GC. And that would suit them as well. They want to stay out and take the stage win. But it's not easy for Sagan and Swift. They must be on their knees by now, Brian. They've given everything today.
They have, and, there's no point holding back. They have to give everything, and I think this will help if Bilbao gets across. They'll know that he'll ride. And Villela, I think, is lucky that Bilbao's coming across, and he managed to kind of hold the wheel, but you can only think that he's got almost empty legs. But who is riding at the front of the peloton? DeConey Quick-Step's there. I think Ineos with Tailgate and Hart, they know that there's an opportunity for a stage win here, but Sunweb there, Trek with Nibali, but just no numbers to control things, and this is what they have to try and do. A big test for DeConey Quick-Step now to try and hold on to this jersey.
Well, the good news for them is that Masnada has just returned to the front. Seri trying to regain position, but you wonder what's left in the legs for the next and final ascent in Tortoreto, which is a classified climb. It's 2.5 kilometres long, 7.1% average, Brian, but again, a maximum of 20%.
The thing is, the likes of Fuglsang and Nibali have to look at this. Kelderman as well. That they have to see that DeConey Quick-Step are really struggling to control this with Bilbao in front, and possibly in this final climb that tops out with 11 kilometres to go, we could see some action from them.
Hey, Bilbao's been unleashed and could well be on his way to challenging for the Maglia Rosa. Sagan wants to challenge for the stage win. He still dreams of that. He still might get it, and if he does pull this off, or even if Ben Swift can do it as well, let's give him the credit for being on the attack. It would be one of the most memorable victories in recent times. 35 seconds over the peloton. Left turn coming up here, and they head back up to Tortoreto, this time through a different side. Tricky terrain, wacky weather, and the Giro giving us a gigantic piece of entertainment after the rest day. Pello Bilbao on the attack and trying to upset the GC. He has around half a minute, or getting up to half a minute on the peloton. Remember, he has a gap of 39 seconds to the Maglia Rosa João Almeida. 10 seconds, bonus seconds on the finish line. There could be a change of leader at this Giro d'Italia today. The DeConey Quick-Step are going to do their best to pull this back, and we have one climb remaining. It's all set up for a fantastic finale, Brian Smith.
It is. And I'm looking at this front group all stretched out now with Fuglsang there, Nibali, Kelderman all together. And I think with Bilbao here, they have to react to it. They have to realise that DeConey Quick-Step are really struggling to control things. And even if one or two of them go and get across to Bilbao, it's going to be an interesting run in it. I have to say it's not totally over for the likes of Sagan and Swift. If the GC riders come across, if they get anything left in the sprint at the end, Sagan or Swift could win this.
It's been a brilliant, brilliant breakaway. They are the two survivors from a really strong group that we had up the road. 8 seconds behind them are Bilbao and Villela. And the reason that some weather coming up there as well, Brian, is because Bilbao is currently moving up into second place overall above Wilco Kelderman. Here's De Koning quick step at the minute, though, still working. And sitting there poised, ready to try and chip away and take more time is Theo Gegenhardt. He sits just in front of the Maglia Rosa. And he's a big mate, let's not forget, of the Maglia Rosa as well. Used to be teammates together in the under-23s. You're thinking about Gegenhardt's GC challenge. He took time back the other day, but he's still 2:41 behind Almeida in 17th place. If he could chip away at something today, though, he gets closer to the fight for the overall GC. Comrade on his birthday in the top 10. Micah, his teammate, is in there too. Pensteiner is the other rider from Bahrain in that group. And this is the undulating terrain before the start of the climb proper. Bilbao, so strong that Villela can't hold the wheel here. Sagan and Swift continue at the front of the race. They're going to struggle yet again when it hits those steep slopes, you'd imagine. There's only so much in the legs, Brian, you imagine.
But in this part of the course, on the descents, they are holding time. Very difficult to chase the time back. And with the help of Bilbao, Bilbao's just concentrating and gaining time. So, it's going to come down to this final climb, which tops with 11 kilometres to go.
Bilbao is one of the 12 riders who are trying to take on back-to-back Grand Tours with less than 2 weeks in between. Sagan, another of those, and he's just getting better and better and better. 37 seconds for him and Ben Swift as they start the final climb of the day. And the road goes uphill. It kicks uphill even more violently in a moment's time. Bilbao's making great progress here. And he is 7 seconds away from being the virtual Maglia Rosa. Looking for freedom since the race started. Not originally planned to come to the Giro d'Italia. But he's been looking for those own chances after riding as a domestique for Mikel Landa. Remember the Free Mikel Landa campaign? Well, this is Pello Bilbao freed himself. And these are the men who are chasing him. It looks as though Astana are getting interested now. The Koenig Quickstep losing their power at the front. But the good news is other teams are starting to take this on as they're under the final climb now, Brian.
Yeah, I think it's Fuglsang. The three main contenders, Fuglsang, Nibali and Kelderman. I think it was an effort there from Fuglsang. But, they're just looking at each other now while Bilbao is still gaining time. But it's looking even better now for the likes of Sagan and Swift. They just need to get over the top of this climb. They'll know that Bilbao's coming, and Bilbao will just, ride all the way into the finish. So we could see a sprint between Sagan and Swift for the stage.
Well, Bilbao would be a happy passenger, wouldn't he? He'd be a very, very happy passenger. He'd be contributing the most in the chase, in the riding, you'd imagine, as you said, because he wants time in the GC. Sagan trying to press on as well. Now then, movement behind. Nibali follows with a teammate up the road here. Honoré is there too. Gegenhardt and Omen. And Ben Swift is being dropped by Peter Sagan. Oh, it's changing all the time. There are more twists and turns. Many more a chapter still be written with just 12 kilometres to go.
Oh.
An attack from the Maglia Rosa. Hello. Everything's happened. It's all kicking off at the Giro d'Italia. And Joao Almeida has really thrown the cat among the pigeons there. Good reaction from Fuglsang with Wilco Kelderman there too. And Pello Bilbao rides past Ben Swift. Only Sagan to catch. Sagan is close to the top here. This could be the performance of the century from Peter Sagan.
Yeah, this is amazing to see, and even Joao Almeida going on the attack there, and Ben needs to stay with Bilbao if he's got any chance of the stage win. It's killed him and it's coming up now, but you can only think that this is a huge day for Sagan. Can he still pull it off though?
Almeida really trying to defend things from the front, and here comes Pozzovivo. After all of that earlier on, Pozzovivo in the blue was obviously feeling good today, because even after all that panic, he's attacking from the front himself too. This is an incredible race. Well, the gap's down to 26 seconds as Nibali comes across to close the gap too. He's bringing Gegenhardt with him, and Fuglsang as well. McNulty riding well at the back here. A little bit of looking around. Once more, there will be gaps in the top 10 of the general classification. And on those steeper slopes, Domenico Pozzovivo does what he was planning to do all day long. And you can see why he was. He is on fire, Brian Smith.
Yep. Really riding well, really riding strong, and Almeida having to react to it. He doesn't have any teammates, so he's got one at the back just trying to hang on there. I think that's Masnada, but yeah, testing times for everybody still looking good for the stage win is Peter Sagan, and Pozzovivo closing this down, but I don't think it's going to be enough by the top.
And there is Peter Sagan. It's been a long, long wait, hasn't it, since the 10th of July 2019. But today could be the day. They've thrown absolutely everything at this man since the start. They've been left jabbing and right hooking, but every time he's been knocked down, he has got up and he's come out swinging here. Peter Sagan is one of the best days of his career.
Yep, this is absolutely amazing to consider. When they initially went away, Groupama, Rhodes, even Demar was riding on the front. It came down to about 16 seconds. But even at this stage, even if he gets caught, I still think that Peter Sagan is going to be winning this stage today.
So Pozzovivo now has Ben Swift on his wheel. Joao Almeida is the king of the race leader. And this is all that's left of the main group. Now Sagan has a 13-second lead over Bilbao. Remember that this descent is tricky, certainly in the wet, and then it's the flat road.
Yeah, just
Bilbao
has to
going down it a little bit more gingerly.
Remain upright. That's all he has to do. Sagan, we know he's a good bike handler, but that gives you confidence as well. If he stays upright, even if this group catches him, still believe he can win the stage with the form he's in today. "167
of the most entertaining kilometres of bike racing you're ever likely to see have been ridden. 10 remain, and we're going to finish in Tortoreto Lido on what's been a dramatic day at the Giro d'Italia. Bombshells off the bike before we started, corona positive tests, but all of that thankfully has been forgotten about for a few entertaining hours. Peter Sagan was in the breakaway. He was attacking from the very first pedal strokes and had to fight just to stay there. They were 16 seconds away from being brought back. And now we've had problems behind for Jakob Fuglsang as the GC contenders are almost there, but are suffering. It's another puncture on another descent and another inopportune moment for Jakob Fuglsang. And this is his Giro d'Italia in real trouble.
Yeah, you can't ride that down the descent now, and the car's absolutely everywhere. I think he'll have to rely on neutral service now, but yeah, an unfortunate puncture for one of the main contenders here.
We've seen it happen to Pozzovivo already today, as Bilbao, who attacked from the peloton. It's a teammate who's going to give him the wheel. It's a teammate who's going to give him the wheel, and Jakob Fuglsang is going to be back on his bike, but is he going to have to work hard here because he's lost contact with this group already.
Yeah, just swap bikes, and we knew he was two teammates down right from the start with Lopez and Vlasov. Now he's had to swap onto one of his teammates' bikes and to try and come back now.
He's being chased by Mikel Honoré here. There's Harm Verhoeven as well. Bilbao is being slowly caught by the Maglia Rosa group. Just 9 seconds between them at the moment. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It's over half a minute that Fuglsang has to make up. And that is not good news. The GC Challenge was going better than ever for Jakob Fuglsang. Now then, this is the moment that he had the obvious issue. And he's on a different bike. He swapped bike with a teammate. And you go back to that point, don't you, about the other two teammates he lost earlier on that probably would have been with him on a climb like that. Sagan is conserving his lead. 13 seconds over Bilbao, 26 over the Maglia Rosa group. It's his Giro d'Italia debut. He needs one stage win here to complete the set. Sagan looked absolutely tired out at points here, but he has dug deeper than ever before and is putting in one of the performances of his illustrious career to date. What a design of this stage. The way it's been raced has made it even more magical. I'm out of breath just watching this. Fuglsang is chasing on. He's 40 seconds behind the Maglia Rosa group at the minute. They're approaching the flat section now. Most of the tricky twists and turns are out the way. There is Nibali. He's just behind Wilco Kelderman. I guess they're all going to work together to try and put time into Fuglsang, you'd imagine. They can't wait up now with Bilbao up the road, Brian.
No, I think they will ride, and I think Bilbao as well. They can afford to ride now because Bilbao is in the front. It's not a case of Fuglsang having that puncture.
This is Gegenhardt trying to take more time back. McNulty trying to chase him as well. Remember Gegenhardt, who is in 17th place at 2:41. It looks as though he's going to gain positions whatever happens today, because there are some losers in the top 10. Amongst them, Harm Verhoeven. And as it stands, Jakob Fuglsang. How's the pink jersey reacting for you, Brian? Because this is his first really, really big test at the end of a stage.
Well, I think he's looking okay. I think what they want to do is he's asking whether he waits for one of his teammates. I think Masnada is in the group with him, so I think if Masnada and himself just kind of ride to the finish, he will control things. But it looks as if he's going to maintain his pink jersey. But this man here, Peter Sagan, tremendous day. We keep on saying this with some of the young guns coming through, but Peter Sagan has really stepped up today, and it looks as if he'll be winning today's stage.
He's been in breakaways, he's been in sprints, he's been in attacks. Throughout the Tour de France, it looked like it might be on its way. At the Giro d'Italia, it was a question of when, not if, surely. I know he's had his doubters. I know people have questioned whether he'd ever win another race. But here, Peter Sagan has put in a performance, I think, that he will remember for his entire career. He hasn't just put himself in with a chance of winning here as Gegenhardt attacks. But I think, Brian, that Peter Sagan has put in one of the performances of his life.
Yeah, he has. An absolutely super performance from the fronts. Not worrying the whole time, and had enough left in the legs at the end. And we keep on going on about a lot of these youngsters and big performances, and another good performance here from Filippo Ganna. But this is a huge performance here from Peter Sagan.
Well, he should be at the Classics normally at this time of year, but he kept his agreement to go and race the Giro d'Italia. And after this performance, it will be viewed again and again and again. I certainly think he will be very happy with his decision. Now, Pello Bilbao is about to be caught by the Maglia Rosa group. Even just staying in this particular group would mean he'd be one of the day's winners. But he's made things difficult for those chasing him. 25 seconds for Sagan with 4.5 kilometers to go. Gegenhardt is going to think about trying to chip away as much as he can.
Well, I think it could be down to Theo Gegenhardt thinking more of Ben Swift now. So they've got 27 seconds to pull back and Peter Sagan. I'm not too sure that anybody's really interested in bringing Sagan back. How much has Ben got left in the legs? He's just at the back there, but it's an opportunity, a couple of kilometres to try and get a bit of recovery in, and I think that's what Theo's trying to do now, and also push on, because everybody's moving up in the general classification as well.
Who's coming from everywhere? Mikel again. Is there any end to this guy's talents? Well, it was a brave chase to try and pull back 5 minutes. Didn't look like Biel there. I wondered where he was. Surely got to be McNulty. Let's take a look. Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah, McNulty there, going on the attack. Masnada at the front now. Micah just sitting second wheel. So still only 20 seconds, but it looks as if Sagan has got enough just to kind of hold on. But it's a strong move from the group behind, from the American McNulty.
Raining cats and dogs at the finish in Tortoreto Lido, UAE Emirates. Well, the graphic keeps telling us it's Biel. He was on the attack at the start of the day. It certainly doesn't look like him. You'd imagine that this is Brandon McNulty trying to take back some time. Started the day in 18th place at 2 minutes 45. Now, the more I look at it, the more you realise surely it has to be Brandon McNulty at this point. 2.5 kilometres for Peter Sagan. Have a look back at the gap. 20 seconds, we're told. As we heard from Bernie Eisel, remember, just one little obstacle up the road here, and it is a roundabout. Sagan just has to stay upright now. He's looking good, isn't he, Brian?
He is looking good. These riders are just thinking about time at the moment, and McNulty getting stronger as this race is going on, but I do think that Sagan has got this one in the bag. I know that he must be on his last legs, but so is everybody behind that are chasing.
Not often that we are lost for words in the commentary box, but today is one of those days where you look at what he's done, and it's going to take quite some time to compute everything that happened in this stage, from the chase from Groupama FDJ when it almost came back together, then a huge gap, and you start to think that it might be fairly nailed on that the break does it. Then it comes down to as little as 20 seconds, and you wonder if they're going to get a chance. And then he somehow finds strength to pedal away on the final climb of the day and pull off a win like he's racing one of those big classics he's won. Peter Sagan has been written off. Peter Sagan has responded.
He's looking behind it. He's preparing himself for the finish already. He's coming up to the last kilometre. He knows he's going to win it. And a few riders in the breakaway earlier on today would have had a chat. With no chance for Ewan here, but he kept at it and had to deal with 2 from Ineos, 2 from Cofidis, 2 from Movistar, and what a rider, what a performance, and well done, Peter Sagan.
21 seconds as he enters the final kilometre. Peter Sagan can finally see the finish line. It's been a long time since he's seen it. The 10th of July, 2019. 15 long months of a drought, but today at Tortoreto Lido, it is raining like it hasn't rained in a long time for Sagan. A look behind. Everything you thought you ever knew about bike racing, rip it up, throw it away, start again. Sagan is back. He's reinventing the rules. We've waited for a long time for him to turn up to the Giro d'Italia. But in the country where he started his cycling career, it's the renaissance of the showman. Peter Sagan is back. Peter Sagan has pulled off one of the performances of his great career. There you go, voila. Il Maestro. Absolutely incredible as Joao Almeida's looking for bonus seconds behind. Remember, 10 go to Sagan. McNulty's going to take 6, it seems, as well, and a few extra seconds. And Joao Almeida's looking for 4. It looks as though he's going to get them 2. Almeida increasing his lead in the Maglia Rosa. And Sagan winning one of the most chaotic stages of the Giro d'Italia that we have had in a long time. It's the win of the century for Peter Sagan. Time after time, they threw punches at him. Time after time, he was up off the canvas. A Giro d'Italia stage win to add to the 4 from the Vuelta and the 12 from the Tour. And I tell you what, he might just be on his way to a points jersey challenge too. Arnaud Demar is in trouble for the first time at this Giro d'Italia. Peter Sagan is back. The 3-time former world champion has done it. And behind, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Jakob Fuglsang is losing time, and quite a lot of time, Brian Smith.
Yeah, it's quite unfortunate for Fuglsang. It's a minute and a half now to the contenders, but this man here, absolutely exceptional. Not only does he win his first Giro stage, he completes his Grand Tour stages, but he wins it in that fashion and also takes the Ciclominio jersey as well for tomorrow. What an outstanding performance.
What a show. And a reminder of who he is. And what a way to come back. It was almost worth all that wait. It was almost worth all of the doubt. And all of those who doubted, they have been taught a serious lesson today.
Well, he didn't have to wait for a sprint this time. He did it pretty much all on his own. Heartening performance from the British champion, Ben Swift, today. But boy, what a stage that was. You can see McNulty just finishing in second place. A little bit disappointed when he crossed the line. But Almeida takes the 4 seconds time bonus just in front of Ben Swift. Brutal day, hard day. But you can just see how much it means to the team as well. Bora Hansgrohe. Huge performance from Peter Sagan today.
Wasn't it?
We've seen Peter Sagan put huge performances in to win the world title 3 times, you know, to win Paris-Roubaix, but today that was top end from Peter Sagan.
A heavyweight battle won by the biggest boxer of them all in the